I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internets before we go ahead and get started. Sometimes the tubes get clogged after a weekend, and we've got a holiday day today. Sometimes a little extra cobwebs in there, but it looks like they've connected themselves, which is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Donald Trump and his testimony, whether he is going to be testifying in another trial that is coming up actually tomorrow. Starting on Tuesday, Donald Trump is going to be in the second trial involving E. Jean Carroll, Miss Bergdorf, as we call her here, because apparently she got Bergdorfed by Trump's fingers or something. We'll talk about that. In a dressing room in Bergdorf 20 years ago. Well, we already covered the first trial on this whole saga, defamation, Trump lost, owes her millions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a second trial because Trump made a second set of statements. We're going to get some background on that. And then we're going to read this letter from Alina Habba. She sent this one in to the Southern District of New York, Judge Kaplan. You remember this guy. Remember him? We spent a lot of time with him on the first E. Jean Carroll trial. Oh, gosh, it was a disaster. Well, we're here for round two. So we're going to go through this. Now, Trump is saying, I'm going to testify. And what happened was Roberta Kaplan from the first trial that we talked about, she has said that Donald Trump basically needs to be gagged, right? This is federal court. This is not Areola Engeron's court. And so Roberta Kaplan is saying that basically Judge Kaplan, no relation, should gag Trump, and Alina Habba responded, and Judge Kaplan issued an order on this saying, Trump, maybe we'll have you testify 1 week from today because he's got a funeral to go to. So we'll talk about that. And yeah, I see somebody was mentioning Joe Tacopina, I think, is removing himself from this trial. We remember Joe Tacopina from Miss Bergdorf version 1. Apparently he's off. We'll see if someone else subs in. So we've got all that coming up in our first segment. Then it's going to be a little shorter segment because it was a short letter. Then we're going to jump over to January 6th stuff because Trump submitted his final reply saying that Jack Smith should be held in contempt of court. Remember that Jack Smith just keeps filing motions all over the place. It's like, hey, the case has been stayed. Relax, Jack. And he can't help himself. He's like, no, we're submitting this one. Here's more discovery, Trump. Here's more discovery for you. But the case is not in Judge Chutkan's courtroom anymore, Jack. It's in the Court of Appeals. And so you've got no basis for continuing the litigation. And so there's been a back and forth. Jack said in his reply, or his response, remember, it goes motion, response, reply. So Trump gets the final word here, and that's what we're going to dig into in a second. But Jack Smith, in his response, he said, yeah, we're just going to keep doing whatever we want. We don't care. Judge Chutkan's in the pocket, man. I don't care. We're going to do whatever. So Trump finally replies. It's a 7-pager. We'll see what is inside of that one. Then we've got Fani Willis, the biggest Fani in Georgia because she's the biggest DA, a district attorney in Fulton County, the biggest county in Georgia. Well, she was at church yesterday on Sunday, and she was explaining for the first time ever kind of what's going on there in Fulton County, because we know they weren't just indicting Trump, okay? They were also indicting themselves, allegedly. Fani and Nathan Wade apparently filing motions to discover each other, you know, something like that. I don't know what's going on. But there is a lot of conversation about this. Fani came out and she gave this long sermon, I guess. I don't know, you know, a speech, a sermon. I don't know exactly what it was, but she's blaming racism for her, I guess, affair and the alleged ransacking of the Fulton County bank accounts for their cruises. So we're going to go through that. Wade apparently was held in contempt in his divorce proceedings. The judge apparently scheduled a hearing on this one for mid-February. And there are some people saying, you know, this is all hearsay and speculation. We haven't really seen much here. And I said, yeah, that's kind of true. But it turns out the attorney behind all this, Ashleigh Merchant, says, look, we've got witnesses ready to testify. And that was our prognostication back when we were originally reading the motion, saying it feels like this attorney has a lot more of the goods here, but is actually being nice, right? Is actually doing them a favor by not just unloading the entire dossier on day one. So we'll go through that. We're going to listen to Fani. She's going to explain what's happening here. Got a bunch of clips of Fani, so brace yourself for that. And then we've got a fourth segment today because these are all a little bit shorter segments. We've got a fourth one, which is going to be the military now plotting to sideline Trump, which is just, you know, about what we'd expect. But remember, Time wrote that article some time ago, like how we did it. It was basically like the OJ murder saga. You know, OJ's like, if I did it, we're like, okay, come on, man. And then they did the same thing. They're like, if we rigged it, you're like, okay, you did. Yeah, we all know. So now they're already foreshadowing what is to come. The military plotting to stop Trump. This was an exclusive report from NBC News. They're saying all these people are standing up infrastructure in case he wins. Then it's going to be the end of the world, of course. And we're also going to then jump over to Florida because you can see some of the other players who are entering the game from the FBI. These are DOJ expert witnesses that have just recently been disclosed down in Florida. And so we've got their names: Andrew Kochy, Johnathan Hoyt, David Loveall. They're all expert witnesses. And so we're going to go through these disclosures and I'll show you what they're being brought on for in the classified documents prosecution out of Florida. We'll see. They're computer scientists, cellular analysis team, and so on. So we'll understand who these people are. And then we'll get to some clips from some of the usuals. Shifty Schiff is saying Trump wants or could now assassinate his opponent. So that talking point, thank you, Judge Pan from the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, is now out in full swing. Everybody else is out there. Trump's going to assassinate us. All right. Bernie Sanders saying he's the most dangerous figure. Scaramucci says Trump is going to be ending democracy. And it's like, wait, wasn't he a Trump dude like a long time ago? So that's strange. We've got this guy. You remember him, Yuval Harari, who we'll talk about. Now, he had this interesting clip from this podcast that he was on saying a Trump win, which he's kind of prognosticating is going to happen, is going to be the death of the global order. It's like, oh, that sounds good. Cool. I can't wait to hear from this guy. So we'll hear from him. You know, well, we'll leave that for that. We also got this guy. You know him as Donald Trump, wearing the white cap out in Iowa, saying he's going to totally overhaul the corrupt DOJ, which is just music to my ears. Sing it, Trump. So we're going to go through all that. We got 4 segments, a little bit shorter today, so we'll keep up the pace. But it's a beautiful Monday, my friends. I hope you had an amazing weekend. We did a beautiful members-only stream this morning. We had some fun. We were talking about the Trump Vivek debacle. You know, everybody's basically killing each other over this thing. It's like, okay, these are 2 politicians running for the same race. They're getting a little bit political now, and we kind of see where all this is going. Like at some point, we're going to have a vote. Anyways, we talked about that this morning and kind of played both sides. Vivek, Trump, what's going on there in Iowa. Talked about that this morning. Iowa is tonight. So my friends, if you're out there, get out there and get after it. I know it's extra cold and I really can't comprehend what's going on over there. But as an Arizona boy, it's like 70 degrees out today. But it looks rough. So if you're out there, stay out there, get after it, go and vote, vote, vote. And when you're done, come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do members-only streams in the morning. We do Saturday streams. We do after parties for our members. And so we really try to support our members, whether you join us on YouTube or whether you join us on Locals. We're grateful for you. Thank you for supporting our work and becoming a member. We also have our website, robertgovea.com. All the PDFs that we talk about here, as well as our newsletter, are available at robertgovea.com. You can click this reports section. See all the news, all the videos are also synthesized into summations of what we talked about on the show. The red lines are there on the website, so you can see everything is nice and organized directly for you. So if you want to catch up, robertgovea.com is a good place to go. You can also, on the homepage, sign up for the newsletter, which is right here. Click here. All those stories will be summarized, synthesized, sent into your inbox. We also have our shop, another great way to support the show by going to the shop, grabbing a hat, grabbing a shirt, grabbing some sandals. Oh, look, hi, welcome to our website. Let us know if you have any questions. Oh, thank you, Robert Govea. That's very nice of you. Thanks for chiming in. Maybe we'll say hello later. All right, so check it out, robertgovea.com. Thanks for supporting our work and checking out the interwebsite tubes. All right, now, let's get into it on the day and see what we've got to attend to in segment number 1. Donald Trump is preparing to testify in New York, but the Southern District of New York this time, not Judge Ariola Engeron's courtroom. We're back with Miss Bergdorf. E. Jean Carroll is her technical name. We call her Bergdorf here because apparently she got Bergdorf by Trump's fingers in a dressing room at a old shopping center location called Bergdorf's. And the Bergdorf happened a long time ago. It was a wild trial. Trump said it never happened. We covered it in depth here, trial number 1. And remember that the big R word that they said Trump did to her, okay, the R word with the, the P and the V and all the things, that he was acquitted on, not even responsible for it. But they said, the jury, in the second charge, that the old finger, the old digits, doing the old DJ, error, all that type of stuff was something that he did do in the dressing room in Bergdorf's. And so we had a bunch of different, analyses. Is Trump an R-er? Is he somebody who does it? Well, no, he got acquitted on that R charge. But the other person said, well, he was actually guilty of the DJ diddles. And so you go, okay, so what's going on here? Well, we've got a whole second trial now that's coming up because Trump has denied this multiple times. And so there was an original set of statements that he got tried on, Southern District of New York. Judge Kaplan, this guy absolutely does not like Donald Trump at all. And so now here's a second trial that's coming up. And so we got a quick background here before we jump into the motion. Here's the deal. This is from the New York Times, a nice summation. They say, as Trump continues to insult Ms. Bergdorf, second defamation trial now opens. Now, she's already won $5 million, but the former president claims he doesn't know who she is. Look at her. Yeah. And this is when she's all dolled up too, by the way. So anyways, we'll leave that there. I'll be nice. A Manhattan jury will be asked a narrow question this week. How much money must former Trump pay E. Jean Carroll? So it's a second trial, but the judge is already going to find that Trump did the DJ diddle thing. So, he can't challenge that anymore. It's already been determined. So now this whole trial is just about damages, right? In other words, Trump loses again. So Miss Carroll's chance encounter decades ago at Bergdorf, where allegedly she got Bergdorfed, said Trump shoved her against a dressing room wall, pulled down her tights, and forced himself on her, is what her testimony was. But the jury didn't believe that. They didn't believe it was the old, hibbity-dibbity. It was just the DJ diddles. A jury in May awarded Miss Carroll $2 million for the assault, nearly $3 million for defamation, okay? So she got more money, this wild jury gave her more money for Trump calling her a liar than she got for actually being diddled. Wild, right? I guess that's the jurors. And they're, well, you can, assault me in my genitals, but don't you dare call me a liar. Whoa. All right. Interesting priorities there. Anyways, the trial is starting on Tuesday, focuses on a separate statement by Mr. Trump, another statement, okay, June 2019, directly after Carroll disclosed her allegation. Trump said, that's totally false, saying she invented it to sell a book. Oh, cool. Sure. What's she going to get another $5 million for that? Now, Mr. Trump says he wants to attend and testify, something he didn't do in the first case. Now, that sparked a bitter dispute. We're going to hear Alina Habba, her response to all this, between lawyers for E. Jean Bergdorf and Mr. Trump over what the president could say. Could he actually speak about any of this? Because they're using the first trial to say that the assault already occurred. There's nothing to litigate over about that. In other words, Trump loses by default. And now we just move forward and talk damages. And then we'll see how much they hit him for, right? Kaplan said there's not going to be a do-over. And so what happened is E. Jean's lawyer submitted a request to the judge and said, Judge, make sure Trump is gagged. Make sure Trump cannot communicate about all of those other things because we know Trump is going to just speak. So this is a letter from Alina Habba, who sent this one in to the Honorable Lewis Kaplan, judge out of the Federal District of New York, Southern District in New York. Case, of course, is E. Jean Carroll versus Donald Trump. And as we scroll down, you'll see, signed by Alina Habba herself. She drafts, she says, all right, Judge, we're here and we write this letter on behalf of Donald Trump. Now, we're responding to Ms. Bergdorf's letter from a couple days ago, where Ms. Bergdorf and her lawyers, they proposed unprecedented hurdles and unsupported what they called, quote, prophylactic measures and curative instructions. Prophylactic measures, which I usually think about in medicine, like take this so you don't get that. It's like they're going to get a Trump jab or something, you know, so that we don't get infected by MAGA information, disinformation. Yeah. And curative instructions so that the jurors and everybody knows that Trump's kind of just a liar and just disregard his stuff, right? Cure the testimony. So Alina said, this is ridiculous. In the event that Trump decides to testify, Roberta Kaplan already submitted this to the court and said, let's limit him in case he wants to talk. So Alina says, this letter, which is the second letter that Bergdorf has filed in this 2-day period leading up to trial, is nothing more than a desperate attempt to pigeonhole Trump's defense the days before trial and to prevent his legal team from preparing for the upcoming trial. Saying here that Bergdorf and her lawyers, they improperly claim that Trump has nothing to testify about. They say she began her letter by improperly suggesting that in light of the recent ruling from a prior motion, they say, the judge, you already ruled on this, so there's nothing that Trump could possibly testify to. They said, well, as an initial matter, it is not Roberta Kaplan, it is not Bergdorf's lawyer to surmise that Trump cannot offer anything valuable. Okay? He is not your witness, he's ours. In any event, with the limitations placed on Trump by your order from January 9th, he can still offer considerable testimony in his defense that should not be made to share with them before trial. Most notably, they say, Bergdorf here, Carroll, is seeking punitive damages. Now, under New York law, punitive damages may only be assessed if there was malice in addition to other elements of libel, talking defamation. So to do so, Bergdorf must prove by preponderance of the evidence that the statements were made out of hatred or ill will or spite. Okay, so when Trump was saying that Ms. Bergdorf, I never met her, I don't know who she is. She's just trying to sell a book. This woman's nuts. And that is my opinion of this woman, right? Remember what happened in New York? There were statutory changes. Okay, all these cases are ancient, like 20, 30 years old. But there was a temporary reprieve, which I believe they passed this law literally to prosecute Trump. Like they opened up a window, the legislature did, that if you had an old claim that was barred by the statute of limitations because your time expired, they would reopen the statute. You could come back and relate it back to your original and file a lawsuit. They did. They closed it back up. You've seen some other people get hit with these lawsuits in New York, some of these other rappers and whomever. But they basically hit Trump with it, closed it back up, and they're done. So she brought all her claims in, and now they're being pursued. Now, obviously, the jury in the first trial didn't really believe Miss Bergdorf, E. Jean Carroll, all that much because on the hibbity-dibbity charge, they didn't trust her on that. No, you're not credible. You're a liar. We don't think that there was the hibbity-dibbity, only the DJ diddles. So obviously, she's not credible by even the jury's own determination. They didn't believe her on the first one. So here they say, was Trump's response out of hatred or ill will? No, he's just defending himself. This woman is making baseless, to use their words, accusations against him, and he is responding. That's not ill will or spite. I mean, you might have some feelings about somebody making false accusations against you, but that's a separate matter, and I think everybody would be reasonable to feel that way. But is he actively trying to go destroy her based out of a hatred or ill will, something that rises to the level of the standard? They say no. Even with the court's order, which arguably countermands all the Supreme Court precedent, they say Trump could offer evidence and should be allowed to testify about the circumstances surrounding his statements. Specifically, Trump should be allowed to testify to the affirmative questions he was asked by reporters. Okay, they asked him. Then he responded, and he was just denying Miss Carroll's story and whether he was acting with hatred or ill will when he provided his answers. Trump, did you hate her? Were you trying to destroy her life? No, I was trying to defend myself. Thanks. He can do this without opining on the actual underlying events. He can talk about his statements. They say also, Trump can also testify about his state of mind, things like the timing of his statements and the mitigation and the correction of any statements. Saying Trump can also testify about the circumstances of his comments as they related to Ms. Bergdorf's continuous parade of interviews and publicity. Remember, she was all over the place, basically baiting him, right? Now, additionally, Trump corrected his initial statement the day after to explain that he did meet her at some point on the receiving line at a charity event, which is relevant to show he doesn't have any ill will. Okay, maybe I did take a picture of her. Maybe we were at some event together. I meet a lot of people, but I didn't hibbity-dibbity her in the dressing room, and the jury agrees with him. Finally, while completely hamstringing Trump's ability to discuss anything related to Bergdorf's narrative, the court, for whatever reason, has left open the issue of whether Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, two friends who can testify, and has admitted that the Access Hollywood tape into evidence, Trump should be allowed to testify about those incidences from Ms. Carroll's allegations, comment on those things. Those issues are not barred by res judicata or collateral estoppel, meaning it's already been decided by another court or another trial. In this case, it was a trial one. So those incidents are not barred. Like you might have said, the dressing room DJ Diddle event, that's done and settled. We don't need to relitigate that. But these other things that he can comment on are not that. So if the court is inclined to admit that evidence, including the access, grab him by the purse comment, which the court has already admitted, Trump has the right to rebut those accounts and to provide his version of the events. Now, in her letter, Ms. Bergdorf and her lawyer, they improperly suggest extreme and unprecedented barriers of entry just to allow Trump to even testify in his own defense. Most egregiously, without any support or legal precedent, Bergdorf suggests that Trump be required, they want him to actively state these things on the record, just like Areola Engeron wanted. Suggests that Trump, quote, be required to state on the record and under oath, out of the presence of the jury but in open court, that he understands that it is established only for purposes of this trial that he assaulted Miss Carroll. Okay, they can't use the R word in there because the jury found him not liable for that. And that he spoke falsely with actual malice and lied when accusing her of fabricating her account and imputing her motives. Sheesh Louise, Roberta Kaplan, Miss Bergdorf. They want him to just admit to the whole case before he even speaks, which is crazy. Yes, basically, it's like, hold on a minute. I would like to testify in my defense. I've been charged of murder. I'm innocent, though, so I'm going to testify that I did not murder this person. Okay. We're going to allow you to testify, but before you do, you have to come out here and I want you to be clear about this, okay? We don't want any nonsense from you. I want you to read this statement. I definitely murdered that guy before you testify in your defense. You say, what? Huh? No, I didn't, though. You have to say this, otherwise you're going to be able to talk about some other madness. That's what's happening here. That's what she wants. Actual malice. I made the statement with actual malice and I lied. Okay, so how about no? Now, Alina says, we presume that this is not a kangaroo court. Well, that's asking a lot there, Alina. Of a third world country, you're in New York, where a party to a lawsuit is involuntarily made to say what a court and an opposing party wants them to say. Well, yeah. That's basically what they all want, is Trump to come out and say something. And even Engeron tried the same thing in New York, just a couple blocks down. Now, while President Trump is well aware of the court's ruling with respect to issue preclusion, like we're not going to relitigate the DJ Diddles, and the strict confines placed on his testimony, it would be a manifest injustice to require President Trump to proffer his guilt, literally, I'm guilty for everything, under oath, for acts that he maintains did not occur, which were adjudicated by a jury under a preponderance of the evidence standard. Now, the decision in Carroll 2, which has direct reverberations on the damages sought in this action, is under appeal, and President Trump cannot and should not be made to testify under oath in any particular affirmative matter. Now, they say that Bergdorf's other proposals are also far-fetched and highly prejudicial. Again, without citing any precedent, they just came out and they say that Trump and Trump's lawyer be made to give an offer of proof. So you got to, before Trump says something, make sure it's even remotely true and then prove it to us before he speaks. They cite rules of evidence, which is not even applicable here, talking about characterization of evidence. But here, through this very response letter, Trump has more than demonstrated his ability to testify on a bunch of things. And here, Bergdorf wants Trump admonished before he even opens his mouth to testify. Isn't that nice? Well, Trump lies a lot, so he's probably going to lie again. So why are you such a liar? Don't lie in my courtroom. Wow, that's interesting. Didn't even open my mouth yet. Thanks for a fair trial. Now, again, this is not appropriate and certainly should not be done in front of the jury. And finally, Bergdorf also suggests informing Trump of the possible consequences for violating their order. Now, this is unnecessary, should definitely not be done in front of the jury, and making this warning in front of the jury would prejudice Trump and the defense. Now, similarly, they also propose curative instructions. So if the jury hears something, the court can correct them. Disregard Trump, he's a liar, everything he does is bad, please vote accordingly. Say if he runs afoul. Now, the court should not adhere to pre-written curative instructions before it even hears what Trump says. There could be numerous questions that require an answer, and curative instructions here that they propose is way overly broad. It's extremely prejudicial to Trump as they try to box his testimony in. Continuing, Ms. Habba says, plaintiff's letter seeking preventative measures and curative instructions is largely based on mischaracterizations of Trump's statements. Court should not consider these statements. Nothing in these statements indicates that Trump is unaware of the court's order. He has no intent to defy them. Now, let's talk about this case. With respect to the Tish case brought in New York Supreme Court, the AG case, that situation is very different than this case. Trump properly, because they were referencing that, she said Trump made a lot of statements during his closing statement. Trump properly asked the court, they say it was a fine statement, to consider the financial statements, the present state of the organization. He said Zurich, one of the most prestigious property and most prestigious insurance companies in the world. He talked about the lack of witnesses, saying there was no witnesses against us. They have nothing, he said. He said the banks all got all their money paid back. The banks are as happy as can be. He said they do have a triplex where they make a mistake and they corrected it immediately when it was made. It was de minimis, said Trump, because the amount of money they're talking about compared to the billions of dollars of net worth is irrelevant. It's virtually irrelevant. He said it's a very small number and it was a mistake that was corrected. So Trump said all that, and Ms. Kaplan, on behalf of Ms. Bergdorf, E.G. and Carroll, is saying, we don't want to have that happen again. So they say in the letter, they say, well, Trump is going to do this again. He's going to talk about all this stuff. And so contrary to the misrepresentation in her letter, no, Trump honored the time limitations imposed by the court. And he talked about things that mattered, right? Lack of damages, which is exactly explained by that. He explained one piece of evidence, which should have no bearing on the damages. So everything he said was on point, so you don't need to gag him before he even speaks. Now, Alina wraps up this very beautiful letter. Says, given the court's prior rulings in this case, Trump and his ability to defend himself is already severely limited. Precluding him from taking the stand altogether would be a manifest injustice and a clear violation of his constitutional rights. And for the foregoing reasons, says Ms. Habba, says the application should be denied in its entirety, and we thank the court for its attention to this request. Signed by Alina Habba in the House. And so you can see that is what got sent in to Judge Kaplan. And the question is Trump going to be allowed to testify? Is he going to be allowed to testify to his testimony, or is he going to have to fit within this little box that the court is crafting for him? Well, we do have one order from the judge. So Judge Kaplan has responded, signed this one January 14th, and he's giving Trump a date to testify. Here's the memorandum and an order. Donald Trump's mother-in-law has passed away, Melania's mother, may she rest in peace. And Trump has requested a postponement of the trial, which starts immediately. So the court is responding. They say, the court on Friday night denied Donald Trump's latest last-minute request to postpone the start of the trial, this time for a week, as Trump planned to travel to Florida on Wednesday to attend his mother-in-law's funeral on Thursday. The court then stated that a memo would follow and now fulfills that promise. So Trump, you want to go visit your mother-in-law who died? Too bad, you've got trial. Now, on January 12th, 3 days after the announcement of the death of Mrs. Trump's mother, and the day before the defendant's request, his counsel informed the court by email that Trump would attend the trial. So you told us that you were going to come to trial, and then you asked for a postponement because of the death. 3 days after the announcement, and the day before, they said that. So the judge says, sorry, this trial date in this case was set 7 months ago. It was adjusted by 1 day to respect the national holiday on Monday. That's today. But here, the court then said a jury panel was also summoned, and a postponement at this time would disrupt and inconvenience the prospective jurors, the counsel, the court staff, security arrangements, and said it's going to cause other scheduling and logistical problems. And so, accordingly, the court denied Donald Trump's requests, but noted that the defendant is free to attend the funeral, the trial, or both. So pick one. You can't be in two places, either the trial or by your wife's side. Now, the judge notes this interesting footnote here, footnote 2, you'll see. Scrolling down here, he says, also, by the way, the court has learned that Donald Trump has scheduled a campaign appearance anyways at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 17th in New Hampshire. And they went to his website to look at the date. He says, you're already going to New Hampshire anyways, buddy. You're going to be up here anyways. So we'll see you on Thursday. You're going to be in New Hampshire on Thursday in the event that Trump rests his case sometime on Thursday, January 18th, just a few days from now, because it's going to be very short. They say the court would grant a continuance for Trump on Monday, January 22nd, just so we can hear Trump's testimony at a later date. Signed by Judge Kaplan, and this is going in to the Southern District of New York. And so, of course, we'll be here continuing to cover this. We'll see if Donald Trump testifies. Trial will be coming up soon. January 18th is when maybe the defense ends their case, but Trump could come back on Monday and testify. And of course, we will be here continuing to cover. It will be interesting to see what this looks like. Donald Trump did not go to the first Bergdorf trial, but maybe he'll be there at the second one, and we'll be here to continue to cover, my friends. So thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll see you on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. Let's carry on. We've got the January 6th case to attend to. Trump slams Jack Smith for continuing to litigate the January 6th case. We know that the case is on appeal. Judge Chutkan said that the litigation at the lower level was stayed. So why is Jack Smith continuing to file discovery requests and notices and dump all this material on Trump's desk when he's not even in this courtroom anymore? He's in the Court of Appeals. Well, Jack says, I'm allowed to do this, and I'm going to continue to do this because, as we expect is going to happen, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals is going to come back down and say Trump does not have presidential immunity. The case can go back on track. And when that does, Jack Smith is going to say, we're ready to go. This trial date can come back to March 4th, Judge Chutkan. So let's go. Well, this is Trump's final response to this whole back and forth. Trump submitted a motion saying, hold him in contempt. This case is stayed. Jack Smith replied, said, I'm not following anything you say. This is Judge Chutkan's courtroom. I'm going to have everything I want granted anyways. This is Trump's final word. The reply. Trump submits the reply saying Jack Smith should be held in contempt and there should be an order to show cause in place. And an order to show cause is like being called to the principal's office. Not good. So here Trump says, look, all right, Jack Smith, illegitimate, illegally appointed, office totally not even real. All right, Jack. They say, Dear Judge Chutkan, having been caught, busted, knowingly, repeatedly, and blatantly violating this court's stay order, yours, Judge Chutkan, the so-called special counsel and his assistants here in the prosecutors, lowercase, nice, love it, offer no excuse. Instead, they engage in a failed attempt to rewrite the record, claiming that Judge Chutkan's stay order prohibits only those actions that require a response from Trump. Remember, they said, well, we can file whatever we want. Trump doesn't have to respond to anything, and so therefore he's not burdened. And you say, hello? The fact that, first of all, we're not going to let you just file stuff on a document, on a docket, and just be totally removed from the situation. Just file whatever you want. We'll come take a look at it when you're done. No, that's our docket too. And so us just having to monitor the docket is effort. Okay, if you file some nonsense like this motion in limine that they submitted, obviously Trump's team needs to know about it. What if they just filed a motion just to hold a trial in absentia and Donald Trump is guilty as charged? And Chutkan says, great, perfect. No, the defense needs to be there to monitor that. So everything that we're witnessing here from Jack Smith is requiring action. And there's another concept. When you file motions, you have to ask the other side, do you agree with this? Do you oppose? Do you object? What's your position on this? Do you agree or do you object? We need a continuance. We need this motion. Do you object to them? So when they have to ask the other side about that, that is a burden. So Jack Smith wants to just say, well, I'm building, my house on my side of the road. It has nothing to do with yours. No, Jack, you're not. It's not only yours. It is the shared docket. So here's what they say. Now, as the prosecutors are fully aware, the stay order says nothing of the sort. It doesn't just limit them from doing stuff that requires a response. It's not what the order said at all. The order from Chutkan expressly prohibits, here in bold, any further proceedings. Jack, can you read it? One that impose additional burdens of litigation, like having to check the docket to see what type of insane things you're filing on President Trump or anything that moves this case towards trial. Any. Now, the prosecutor's filing attempt to achieve both of those unlawful goals. And so accordingly, Jack Smith should be ordered to show cause as to why he should not be held in contempt of this court. Judge, you said don't do it. He did it. Then we filed an objection to it, and he said, we're going to continue to do it. They continue. Trump's defense rights. Now, the prosecutors, Jack Smith, they argue that President Trump is, quote, not obligated to review. Well, he doesn't have to read it. We can just submit it, and it can just sit in his inbox. If he wants to read it, that's his problem. Or that he doesn't have to respond to the filing and the discovery, and therefore there is no burden. They say this is false, obviously. Now, as an initial matter, President Trump must examine all documents the prosecutors file in this case, obviously, when they are filed to determine whether and how they should respond. Now, this is because both the prosecutors and the court have taken the unsettled position that the court may address and resolve certain issues notwithstanding the stay order. Chutkan said, well, I still have a jurisdiction over Trump's gag, for example. Okay, so the court has retained the ability to control Trump's speech. She says, well, that doesn't impact litigation. That's just a management of the case. And so she bifurcated that. But in other words, they could file something about that would put it within the defense's purview, saying the court should not assume at this juncture that no issue can arise that is not involved in the appeal. Now, the court, said Chutkan, the court does not understand the required stay of further proceedings to divest it of jurisdiction to enforce the measures, which is the gag order, that we've already imposed to safeguard, they say, the integrity of the proceedings. Weird, because all Jack Smith's prosecutors leak information to the media and file garbage in their motions that the media runs with. So it's safeguarding the integrity relative to Trump. He can't talk, but everyone else can. Now, President Trump also cannot know whether a filing relates in whole or in part to an issue that the prosecution says is not involved in the appeal without reviewing the filing. Because remember, the appeal stays the stuff that is related to the appealable issue. In this case, it's presidential immunity, which is kind of a big issue, which means it spreads this massive umbrella over the whole case. But presidential immunity doesn't really relate to judicial administration of a case. So in other words, no matter how the Court of Appeals rules on presidential immunity, Chutkan is still going to be able to control the decorum of her courtroom and Trump's speech via the gag order. So she retains some of that. Now, therefore, when something goes into that docket, they've got to keep their eye on it. So he must perform that review on receipt. And we don't trust the government to say, well, we're filing this and it only has nothing to do with the appeal. So they say, obviously, if we have to review Jack's filings, clearly that's unquestionably a burdensome task. And the stay order says no. Here, a filing violates the stay order. Where it does, President Trump must preserve his rights by clarifying. When they submit something, Trump has to say, we're not accepting it, and we're not substantively responding to the filing. And that is a burden on us, a burden the prosecutors have already wrongly forced on Trump, and they've required this multiple times. Every time he's got to respond to this, he has to say, we're not reading it, we're not reading it, we're not reading it. That's a burden. Now, second, and they can't read it because they're in the Court of Appeals. Now, second, as the prosecutors are fully aware, Jack Smith and his deranged thugs, and no doubt intend, their filing of politically motivated and charged invective, like the recently filed motion in limine, it induces substantial negative media coverage against Trump. It burdens him both personally by falsely impugning his character and professionally by undermining his leading campaign for the 2024 election. And worse, the Jack Smith so-called prosecutors, they also publicize their untruthful arguments. They know it's not true, knowing that any press coverage will be entirely one-sided without Trump's substantive responses. And just as the stay order shields Trump from the burdens of trial and discovery, it also protects him from other burdens of litigation as well. Now, although Jack Smith and the prosecutors generically deny a political motivation, yeah, right, such words are empty. The prosecutors' filings, including the motions in limine that we read here, closely mirror the Biden campaign's dishonest talking points, a fact that the prosecutors do not and cannot deny. The timing of the prosecutors' filings, likewise, also cannot be explained by the posture of this case. Why are they filing now? Oh, the case is stayed, so it's a political hatchet job. Instead, they synchronize with the Biden campaign's recent media blitz. They're out saying, Trump is Adolf. Trump's going to end democracy. Got a bunch of clips in the next couple segments, which relies on the same discredited appeals to emotion that pervade their filings anyways. Here, Dave Smith wrote about this in The Guardian, says, fired up Biden shows gloves are off on January 6th anniversary speech. Joe Biden, right, going around to everyone. Trump's going to wreck democracy as his party's throwing people off ballots. Now, this time it's personal, said Joe. On Friday, Joe Biden tore into his predecessor, Trump, as never before. He brimmed with anger, with disdain, and with contempt. And once more, they note from ABC News, they say, weird. Anonymous sources, quote, sources familiar with what Smith's team has learned during its probe, they've resumed their deliberate and unlawful effort to damage Trump through leaks of false and defamatory information. All these anonymous sources, it's weird. They all go right to the Times, the Post, ABC News. They've got DMs to the media. It's not a coincidence, says Trump's team, that the Biden campaign, the prosecutors, and, quote, the sources close to the prosecutors are all attempting to simultaneously flood the airwaves with matching anti-Trump rhetoric during the stay. And prosecutors' filings also impose a prohibited burden on Trump by wrongly and very publicly accusing him of committing a crime when the appellate courts should determine that he acted lawfully under immunity principles. Now, these false accusations are irreparably harmful to Trump and his reputation, and they represent defamation per se in any other context. Now, for the same reason, Trump cannot ignore the practical implications of their unlawful actions, but must instead take reasonable steps to defend his reputation, especially considering the political nature today. Now, given this, it is unsurprising that the prosecutors, Jack Smith and them, they cannot cite a single case that has allowed continued motion and discovery practice during a stay. Is there one, Jack? And these people, by the way, prosecutors are supposed to do justice. They get badges and all sorts of stuff. And they're not. They are, in this case, particularly doing the opposite of justice. Now, finally, the prosecutor's assertion that Trump is not legally obligated to review the discovery is meaningless. The defendant is never obligated to review the discovery. They can throw it right in the toilet. And some defendants do. Like, oh, whatever, I'm guilty. I don't care. I'll take the plea. I didn't even read it. Now, moreover, and regardless, the prosecutors obviously argued for an unconstitutionally rapid trial based on the idea that Trump somehow should have identified and reviewed millions of publicly available documents before he was even indicted, despite his obvious lack of obligation to do so. And remember, the timing of this case is nuts. I mean, it was like 9 months from indictment to trial. And there were 14 million pages of documents, which is also insane. Because remember, Walmart versus Visa had like 7 million pages, and that took like 7 years to litigate. Huge, massive numbers. But they say Trump can handle like double the documents in 9 months. No problem. All of his attorneys can read like ChatGPT, just reading everything. So although such documents represented only a small fraction of the total discovery, which is many millions of non-public documents as well, the court accepted this argument for speedy trial. Chutkan said, well, we already kind of knew about January 6th, and we already kind of knew a lot of these things, and Trump's got a lot of money and a lot of lawyers, and so they should have been looking into it before he was even charged. And you go, that's new. Not heard that one before. But Judge Chutkan apparently is, the constitutional whisperer, and she found it out of somewhere. Now, denying President Trump his rights to due process and adequate time to prepare for a trial, she said this. You've known this time was coming, she said, probably, giddy. Mr. Trump's counsel has known this was coming for some time, and I'm sure any able, diligent, and zealous defense counsel would not have been sitting on their hands waiting for an indictment. So you should have already been reviewing the discovery from years ago. Crazy. Now, the prosecutors make no secret that they're going to attempt the same maneuver here. And they're going to defeat the purpose of the stay order and unlawfully impose enormous burdens on Trump. So do you see the foreshadowing here? Chutkan already said you can have trial in March because you should be doing your due diligence, even though you never were officially charged with a crime. You should hire defense lawyers to defend you and review millions of pages of documents that you're not even sure where the prosecution is going, and then they prosecute you. Now, they say that for Trump. Now, he might actually have the resources to do that, but he's got no obligation to do that. And the fact that he could have done that doesn't mean that she gets to suddenly deprive him of his due process rights because maybe she had a different perspective on how they should have been handled at the outset. Anyways, it's crazy. So she just makes it up. But you see that the argument is she's going to do it again. Well, Trump, even though you were on appeal, you should have been reading Jack's motion. You should have been reading these new disclosures. And he's going to say, but I didn't. And she's going to come, well, you should have been. So they have to make their record. We are not reading anything. Take your stupid discovery and shove it. So here they say, look, the prosecution's actions are now attempting to move this case towards trial, saying the prosecutors bizarrely and inconsistently argue that their filings did not even move this case towards trial. Well, that's weird. But simultaneously, they claim that these filings are necessary to ensure the prompt resolution of the case. That's prosecutor logic right there. Okay, let's see if they can rectify this. They say that production was necessary to ensure that trial proceeds promptly if and when the mandate returns. Okay. I know I'm just a lowly defense attorney, but if it doesn't move the case towards trial, because if it did, it would be prohibited, but it helped the prompt resolution of this case, kind of sounds like a trial, because Trump's not taking a plea deal unless they're going to dismiss this, which doesn't look like that's happening. So the prosecutor's embrace of Orwellian double talk aside, this argument defeats itself. If the filings and productions help prepare the case for trial and they're necessary for a prompt resolution, well, then by definition, they move the case towards trial. Hello. It's a trial, a plea deal, or a dismissal. Indeed, the prosecutors present no reason for the filings other than the unlawful reason, which is the desire to accelerate the trial schedule. Now, their stated intention is illogical. It violates your order, Judge Chutkan, and it has no basis in law. The actions at issue, filing motions and producing additional discovery, they're archetypical examples of proceedings that advance criminal cases towards trial, obviously. Like they're basic, what you do. They're normal proceedings. So much so that the court used those exact proceedings to illustrate the stay order prohibitions. Now, although the prosecutors, Jack, they attempt to distinguish the court's example by pointing to the word requiring and misses the point. Requiring additional discovery or briefing would violate the stay order because those activities literally advance the case towards trial. And so here is the same thing. Prosecutors, their motions, and their discovery are literal admitted attempts to advance the case, and they violate the order regardless of whether Trump is required to immediately respond or not. Now, any remaining arguments are meritless from the government. They claim that they do not understand the order to prohibit either party from voluntarily complying with the order. But nothing in the stay order suggests this is optional. It explicitly and plainly stays any further proceedings that impose additional burdens of litigations on the defendant. Chutkan's words, not ours. This is logical because, as explained above, the prosecutor's, quote, voluntary efforts to advance the case, it does impose burdens on Trump, and the stay order protects us against that. Otherwise, it would literally be meaningless. Now, next, they argue that the stay order also excludes discovery. They say any further proceedings, they say this is baseless. Any further proceedings means any further proceedings. It's clear. Now, to the extent that the prosecutors had any genuine confusion, which might be possible because they're idiots, regarding the meaning of the word any, I don't know, they are not that bright. Let's see if they understand what the word any means. Hopefully they explain it to them. They should have conferred in good faith with Trump's counsel, and they should have asked for clarification, but they didn't. Instead of seeking clarification about what the word any means, they, which is a pretty common word, this is a fact that well-seasoned prosecutors should be able to interpret. Any claim confusion now is just ex post after the fact cover for their intentional misconduct. Now, finally, the prosecutors claim that they informed the court and the defendant of their unlawful plans. And they did what they did and did what they said they would do because the court did not forbid them from doing it. Well, they didn't say we couldn't. They say no. Yes, they did, actually. The prosecutors are wrong. The plain language of the stay says, actually, it forbids your actions. Do not submit stuff unless it meets the exceptions. Any reasonable person, that's the problem. We're talking about prosecutors. Any reasonable person would understand this to mean the court had denied their request. And again, at the very least, the prosecutors should have, but did not, request a clarification before violating the very stay order. And when they did that, they unlawfully burdened President Trump. Now, wrapping this up, John Lauro submits, he says, now the prosecutors claim, Your Honor, Chutkan, quote, that they would never intentionally violate an order of the court. But they have repeatedly done just that, without a shred of support and without even asking for clarification. And now, Jack Smith and his deranged thugs, they now brazenly promise to continue their misconduct unless the court intervenes to enforce the plain language of the stay, saying, Chutkan, you and this court should reject Jack Smith's blatant effort to undermine your authority and order Jack to show cause, bring his butt in here to explain why they should not be held in contempt. Signed by your friend Todd Blanche and John Lauro on behalf of Donald Trump. And so, a nice motion. Now, of course, this is the final word. Jack Smith already submitted his response. So we'll see what Judge Chutkan does. Do you think that she is going to rule against Jack? Do you think he's going to be ordered to show cause? I don't. She's going to say, well, let me issue a clarifying order so that Jack Smith and his confused, deranged, illegitimate prosecutors know what they can and cannot do. And it's probably going to be the end of it. And we'll see what Jack does in response to that. Now, I could be wrong. Chutkan can come out and say, well, that is all allowed. Enjoy, Trump. And we'll see what he does in response to that. Maybe even appeal that order. But we'll be here continuing to cover Trump's defense, obviously calling out Jack Smith for their illegal, unconstitutional filings, saying Jack Smith should be held to account. We're going to be here continuing to cover the Trump trials everywhere they are, my friends. So thank you for joining us as we do. And also thanks for checking out robertgovea.com. If you want to get the PDF that we went through, the red lines, if you want to sign up for our daily newsletter and get all the stories summarized and sent to your email inbox so that you can forward them to everyone you've ever met, Robert Govea is the place to do that. We'll look forward to seeing you there and back here on the next one. All right, now we're on segment 3, and we got 4 today, and we're moving. This time, we're going down to Georgia. Fani Willis finally responds to the allegations about her and special prosecutor Nathan Wade getting a little indicty with each other, and she did so at her church on a Sunday. And we're going to hear what she says. She is blaming racism for all of these attacks, amongst other things. But the story comes to a head because the defense attorney who submitted the original allegations in the motion to dismiss the case, her name is Ashleigh Merchant. She says she's got witnesses who are ready to testify. And we suspected as much because this was a juicy motion alleging that these two had an affair or have an affair and use Fulton County Trump prosecution government money to pay him $1 million that then got funneled back over to Fani Willis and cruises and who knows what else. And so this story has absolutely shaken the entire Fulton County prosecution, as it should. And Fani came out and spoke for 30 minutes, but we're going to hit some highlights on what she said. The governor was responding to this saying, you know, this is pretty troubling here and hinting that there may be a probe. But we'll get into all of it. But first, here is what happened. So we covered the motion from Mr. Roman, and he is somebody who has been charged in Georgia under Big Fani's RICO case. He hired this attorney, Ashleigh Merchant, and she submitted a heck of a motion that we read through here on this channel. If you missed it, I'd encourage you to go back and check that one out because it was so juicy. The full filing is there, and it was as though this attorney was kind of holding back. She was actually being polite, saying, look, I know a bunch of stuff. It's going to be very shocking and explosive, but I'm going to hang back a little bit so that we can be gentle with what happens here. She filed the motion. We have now hearings every Friday, I believe, in Georgia. And so the judge said that he was going to hold a hearing on these improper allegations soon. You see, here's a picture of Nathan Wade. The Epoch Times is reporting, saying that during a motions hearing last week, Scott McAfee, the Georgia judge, he indicated that a hearing on what one of the attorneys termed as the, quote, scandalous allegations surrounding the DA's relationship with Nathan Wade. Now, McAfee is holding motions hearing, every Friday for the next few weeks. And I did listen in to the last one last week, and it was not that interesting. It was a lot of technical stuff that wasn't really newsworthy. But what is this. Say Fani is prosecuting a bunch of people. Now, Trump and 14 other co-defendants have been charged. Now, earlier this week, the defendant, Michael Roman, submitted the motion that was very juicy. He alleged Nathan Wade had taken lavish vacations using state funds from Fani Willis, and he was getting paid a bunch of money. Now, during the court hearing, Steve Sado, an attorney for President Trump, he asked for the option to adopt the motion at a later date. He said, you know, I have no foundation for these scandalous and salacious allegations, says Trump's lawyer. He's like, man, that is scandalous and salacious. Whoo! No, I don't have any foundation for that, Your Honor. But I did read the motion, and he's like, whoo, my goodness. Now, the first of which was made public through a court filing. He said, look, I want to see the DA's response to this before making a decision about whether we want to, as Trump, adopt Mr. Roman's filing. The judge said, okay, I've got no problem with that. I'll let you hang on to that for a little bit. Now, the court, in the filing, Mr. Roman only cites sources, right, and does not provide much evidence of the relationship. Says, there's a lot more here. Public records are also in the story. And so you can see that's a little bit of the background there. So we've got a hearing scheduled for mid-February is when that looks like it's going to be happening. But the question is, what's inside the motion? And we speculated that Miss Merchant, the defense attorney representing Mr. Roman, that she probably has the goods. If you're going to be making a claim like this, you really need to be able to back it up. And so the question is, does she have the goods and can she back it up? So this is an exclusive report from Atlanta. It says an attorney, Miss Merchant, says that she has witnesses ready to take the stand over Fani's and Wade's alleged relationship. And that sounds juicy. Now, Channel 2 Action News from Atlanta has obtained new information about the court motion in the Georgia election interference case that alleges that Fulton County DA Fani and Wade have engaged in an improper relationship. The defense attorney who made those explosive allegations, Ashleigh Merchant, she says she told Channel 2 that she has eyewitnesses. Dun, dun, dun. The spokesman for the DA's office said the prosecution has won every major motion. That's weird because you lost the Harrison Floyd bond motion. Pretty embarrassingly, actually. Like, we all knew that was the outcome. And every appeal, and also, by the way, you guys have also extended 4 diversion offers to Sidney Powell and Jenna Ellis, like the 2 masterminds of 2020. They were all over the TV. Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell got diversion deals. Sidney Powell's apology letter was like, I regret this case. Yeah, nice wins. Maybe if you got a prosecutor who was not making Fani with Willis, you'd actually have gotten some better plea deals for the government. But as far as I'm concerned, they're outstanding for the defense. I mean, they're not even convictions. So whatever. So the spokesman for the DA's office said the prosecution has won every major motion. No. And every appeal in the election interference case so far. And then came this motion making incendiary allegations about one of the most prominent prosecutors in America. That is true. Like, this is a big, a defense attorney making a filing like this against a county attorney. That's a big deal. A county attorney has monstrous local power. A defense attorney has 0. Now, people who want to know what the lawyer they're making these allegations, they went to her. They said, Ashleigh, can you back this up? Like, is all this just nonsense? Like, what's up? I happen to trust our defense attorney brothers and sisters out there. So I had no doubts about this at all. But other people do. Said, she says this, I would never have filed something like this if I didn't have multiple sources to corroborate, which is exactly right. That's my take on it too. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, she must have some serious material here. Otherwise, this motion's not coming out. Because the consequences could be devastating. Like, if she doesn't have evidence to back this up, she files this, like, her whole career could be over. This crazy whack defense attorney, her credibility, her legitimacy would be evaporated in Georgia. So we thought, yeah, she's got to have some serious goods. And actually, the fact that she was so polite about it made me think that it's really something there. So Ashleigh, because it's like, okay, like, what, they have photos of these two? Are they like, frolicking in a dewy meadow, skipping around with each other, putting flowers in her hair? I don't know. So Ashleigh Merchant said about the motion she filed, I got witnesses. I would never have filed this if I didn't have multiple sources. Merchant also told the news that she has documentary evidence. She says, oh yeah, we look forward to litigating this motion in court where we can bring forward all of our evidence. Like the sound of that. Fulton County DA spokesman Jeff DeSantis, said that the office will respond to Merchant's allegations in court filings. They said, we look forward to addressing the matter. What do you think it's going to be? Fani's relationship is all personal business. It's all personal. Trump's an insurrectionist democracy. Merchant maintains, the defense lawyer says, she has witnesses who did not want to provide written affidavits, but they indicated that they would testify in court if they got a subpoena. Oh, man. Oh, man. She said she's talked to former DA's office employee who believed it was common knowledge that these two were dating. Everybody knows this. He got her a Christmas present, man. DeSantis said as a DA's office employee, he's never heard of such a thing. So the spokesman said, I have no idea what you're talking about. No, he never heard such a thing. He says there's no common knowledge that these two are filing motions to discover each other. Now, Merchant said her client, Roman, is innocent of the RICO charges. She said Roman rejected an offer to plead guilty. Good for him. Yeah, to plead guilty to a misdemeanor. I wonder if it would have been a diversion deal like the other 4. If they want an actual guilty plea conviction at this point in time, absolutely not. 4 out of the 4 have all taken diversion deals that are going to result in dismissals. So at this point, everyone else should get dismissals, like as far as I can tell, because Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell were 2 of the most high-profile defendants in the case. And they got diversion. So DeSantis said Wade had been paid $250 an hour for the work. During the hearing, former President Trump's lawyer said, "I'm leery to move and adopt the motions that make such allegations without having a better understanding of the allegations." Yeah, and Scott McAfee said, well, my plan was to allow the state a full opportunity to respond to this. Now, a filing, look at this one, a filing by Jocelyn Wade's side. So that's Nathan's wife, ex-wife, whose home got wrecked by Fani and her Trump money, Trump prosecution money, dirty Trump prosecution money. Nathan Wade is a partner at his own law firm, but has also been employed by Fulton County's office since November 1, 2021, as an anti-corruption special prosecutor, earning almost $700,000 since May. Good money, man. May 2020, $700,000. I know public defenders aren't getting that. Now, it alleges while earning those substantial sums, Nathan Wade, Fani's special prosecutor, has provided nearly nothing to Jocelyn Wade for her support and survival. Rude after that marriage. And I don't think she's a prosecutor, which makes her, amazing. So a filing by Nathan Wade's side said, no, we have provided financial support and we continue to provide support. Now, the DA's office confirms that some investigators at the office had recently been asked to sign confidentiality agreements, about matters that they're working on. But Willis did not know about it until we reached out to the office. Everybody's signing, don't talk about our special counsel office meetings. Yeah. You know the standing meeting that Nathan Wade and I have, this is Fani speaking, that we have every day at 1 p.m. in my office with the blinds closed? Don't talk about those meetings, okay? We're doing legal work. Sure you are. She ordered the agreements retracted and clarified there is no new confidentiality requirement. Whew. Good. DeSantis said the agreements had been requested by 2 supervisors in the office and had no connection to anything with Willis and Wade. All right, we'll see. All right, so that is the story. Witnesses in the House. And this is another story about Wade. Apparently, in his divorce proceedings, he's been held in contempt. So this story just keeps getting worse. And I don't like to troll around in people's divorces. This is all personal stuff. But this guy is prosecuting Trump and he is committing contempt in court, which attorneys are not supposed to do. Attorneys have a heightened duty to the courts. It's like, hey man, you're licensed to practice law in these courts. He's actually being held in contempt. So this guy is violating other judicial orders in his divorce proceedings, and we're supposed to be believing that he is full of integrity and above the board in the Georgia case. Is that the sale? Look at this. Georgia prosecutors under scrutiny in the Trump case. He was held in contempt last year from Politico. Now, Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, who was recently accused of having a romantic Fani with Willis, disobeyed a court order in his divorce proceedings. Why would he do that? Is he hiding evidence from the court? That's weird. Now, just 3 days after Georgia prosecutors indicted Trump, one of the lead prosecutors in the case was in legal trouble of his own. The prosecutor, Nathan Wade, was held in contempt for defying a court order in an acrimonious divorce proceeding. What on earth? Wade, a judge in Cobb County, ruled had, quote, willfully failed to turn over documents about his income. Unbelievable. Including, his wife later said, income from his work on the Trump case. Trying to hide that dirty Trump prosecution money. Yeah. Now, this is amazing because it sounds to me Like a judge issued a lawful order, give us your documents, and Nathan Wade thinks he's like above the law or something, you know? Which is strange because they kept screaming to us that no one's above the law. Remember that in Georgia? Which is weird. He got a direct court order and willfully failed to turn it over. You know, it's almost like he insurrected the courtroom, isn't it? The judge said do something, and he said, I'm not going to do that. So he's interfering with the lawful operation of the courtroom. And he's held in contempt for doing that. Wow. So his wife said that, yeah, this is a problem. Now, Wade's divorce became abruptly intertwined when a lawyer from one of Trump's co-defendants brought it to light, saying the affair, now they say, who was not offered proof. Okay, you see how they're trying to like paper over this? Not offer proof. Well, do you guys really want to see it? Because when it drops, it's probably going to be pretty juicy. And we're not sure that you really want to see it. Now, a lawyer for Wade declined to comment. Now, even aside from this salacious allegation, the contempt ruling against Wade in August 2023, that's recent, man. Wow. Shows that he was fighting his own deeply personal legal battle. He was getting admonished by a judge, and he was helping run one of the most consequential criminal cases in American history, as this guy is breaking the court orders. He's leading the indictment against Trump. Now, Wade himself is a divorce lawyer. The website from his firm touts decades of experience handling divorce cases. And you know, when you're a lawyer and you get in trouble with the law, so like, yeah, my next question, we'll see if the article gets to it, but if he's under investigation by the state bar, because the state bar is going to, why do you have decades of experience? Like, they'll look at that and they'll say, you should know better. So if a young lawyer screws something up, they'll say inexperience, you know, they'll give him a benefit of the doubt. They'll say, okay, this guy's got inexperience. He's new to the practice of law. So we'll put him on probation, or we'll make him take a remedial class, like put him on probation and go do this. Don't do it again. And you're fine. But if you're somebody who's been practicing for a long time, they'll note that when they sanction you. They'll say, this dude has decades of experience. You should know better. So same thing's happening here. Why, if he's been handling divorce cases for literal decades, was he so quick to disobey an order? He has little experience, though, running complex, high-profile criminal prosecutions. Why he's a special prosecutor, no one knows. Another Atlanta divorce, we do know, because he's making, you know, bang, bang, allegedly with Fani. Now, this is bizarre, said Randall Kessler, an Atlanta divorce lawyer. He said the judge basically said, shame on you. Now, to actually be found in willful contempt, it's not a good position, said another lawyer. Not a place you want to be with the judge. Now, Wade joined Willis's team as an outside contractor on November 1st. The next day, he's like, man, I'm getting this Trump prosecution money. The next day, he filed for divorce from his wife, more than 24 years. Bye, Jocelyn. This Trump money's too good for me. See ya. I'm going to go hang out with Big Fani Willis now. She's got that Trump money coming into my pipeline, and I don't want to share it with you. Now, in 2 years since then, he's been paid $700,000. He's like, man, I'm living good. And Scott McAfee said that they're going to hold a hearing in early February. The case still does not have a trial date. Now, the information that Wade ultimately did provide was so woefully inadequate as to be useless, the wife's lawyers wrote. Now, Wade, for his part, has provided all the required documents. Wade's lawyer also accused Wade's wife of being stubbornly litigious and dragging the matter out for no stated reasons. Well, she's probably a little bit upset about what's been happened here. On May 10th, Judge Henry Thompson, the judge who's overseeing the divorce, concluded that Wade had, quote, inadequately responded to his wife's discovery, ordered the prosecutor to turn over a host of financial documents. If Wade didn't comply, he's threatening contempt and sanctions. Now, 3 months later, the judge determined he hadn't complied. During the same week that Wade got an indictment of Trump, the judge issued an order finding him in willful contempt. If he wanted to avoid sanctions, he needed to deliver the material within 10 days. There's no indication that Wade was sanctioned, so maybe he delivered it. But over a month later, Wade's wife moved to reopen discovery, meaning she believed her husband still hadn't given her the information she needed. And the motion added, and all this has been sealed, by the way. Like, I have been trying to get these documents, but it's all sealed now. Why? She had just learned that her husband was working on Trump's prosecution. Says plaintiff has not produced one single document that evidences his income. He's not produced one single bank statement asking where those funds have gone. Oh, man. So there's just a full-blown cover-up here. So on October 24th, the judge granted her motion to reopen discovery. Less than 2 months later, Wade's wife told the divorce court that she thinks he got $700 grand from the Trump money and that she's got nearly nothing. They said it's unusual. This lawyer says it's unusual for judges to hold people in contempt during divorce. That's because they give the party so many chances to comply. It's rare that it gets to this level. He says it's unlikely that Wade was scheming to keep his income from Trump cases a secret. That's because the work was so public facing, also drawing national media attention. It wasn't until recently. It wasn't until all this came out. So amazing. Okay, so Nathan Wade, man, that's pretty brutal. Hey, sorry, honey, 24 years. I got a nice new gig, though. Fani is giving me some nice money, and they're getting their Willis on. So that's what's happening there. Now, Fani has finally come out and spoken about this, and she did speak for about 30 minutes. We're going to hit some of the highlights on this from Anna Bauer, and she's on X at Anna Bauer. She does work for Lawfare and covers legal events there. And this is a pretty big one because Fani, she attended a church at the Big Bethel AME, which is just incredible. Perfect location for Big Fani in Big Bethel AME. Now, in her first public remarks since this allegation, and here is what it sounded like when she was explaining this to her congregation and to the rest of America.
God, you did not tell me that people would call me the N-word more than they call me Fani.
Fani.
You did not tell me as a woman of color, it would not matter what I did. My motive, my talent, my ability, and my character would be constantly attacked.
Did you misappropriate funds for your lover or not? That's what we're concerned about.
You did not tell me that the people would think they required of me perfection and flawless. God, why would you send this imperfect and very flawed woman to that position? God, you did not tell me my home would be swept multiple times for bombs. Or that most days and nights that I would spend them in isolation because that was the safest place to be. You forgot.
Isolation? Why did you invite Nathan over?
Not to mention, Lord, that I would have to abandon my home. You forgot to mention the loneliness of this position. And you certainly didn't tell me about this stress.
Okay, so stress and loneliness. Okay. She was driven into the arms of her special prosecutor because of the stress and the loneliness. And we're going to hear her say, by the way, that she's out here saving the world. So just as we're going to get to that at the very end, but she says we're saving the world. All right, so here she is talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying her spirit is filled with hate. Here's Fani.
Dear God, I do not want to be like those that attack me. I never want to be a Marjorie Taylor Greene who has never met me, but has allowed her spirit to be filled with hate. How does this woman, who has the honor of being a leader in my state, how is it that she has not reached out to me? She can tell me, I don't agree with anything you're doing, but I...
Remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene filed a criminal referral, because Fani and Wade were billing 24 hours in a day. We're also having meetings with the White House counsel, the January 6th committee, and all these things. So she said it should be investigated, and that's it. And now Fani's saying, how dare she come at me when she could have just, I guess, given me a phone call or something? Here's Fani.
I do not agree with people threatening your life or the life of your family. That is conduct that is wrong and intolerable, and as a leader, I shall not stand for it. How did such a woman come to think that it was normal and normalized that another woman was worthy of such cruelty? I would never wish for her to have the experiences of the threats that I received, the derogatory name calling, the being doxxed multiple times.
All right, so I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene never gets any names called at her and never gets doxxed. She's been swatted, all the same thing. It's the same thing, okay? Everybody's under attack. We got it. Here's Fani now, who says that she was also the target of a swatting attack. Okay, so she's very victimized as well. Listen.
God, you never told me that on Christmas night 2023, that I would get an emergency call from Capers Green, my chief of investigations. The police are surrounding your house. A man has called 911, and he said he shot a woman in the head. I am headed there. You never told me the pure, unimaginable fear, as I believe my oldest child was dead in my home. I cannot describe, God, for you the panic and the terror and the fear I had.
I'm sure that's a scary thing. I don't ever condone doxing, swatting, any of that stuff. It's not appropriate at all. And it's happening not only to Fani because of her position, but it's happening to everybody around the country. You've been hearing this from everybody. Okay, all sorts of people who are online are having cops show up at their... People were having this all on Christmas too. Fani had it. I think many other people had it on Christmas, on the left and on the right. I mean, I think Judge Chutkan had it done. A bunch of people on the left are getting it. A bunch of people on the right are getting it. It's all over the place. So what does that have to do, Fani, with you misappropriating, misallocating funds to your lover, alleged lover?
Believing my child was no longer with me.
We're glad he's here. Yeah.
I thank you, Lord, that it
Hopefully the FBI can figure out who's doing all these doxings.
all turned out to be a cruel hoax. And just another day to steal my joy as I tried to celebrate you.
All right.
God,
So she's under attack there. Here's another one. Now, she appears, according to Anna, to defend her hiring of the special counsel, Nathan Wade. She said, I also hired some white guys who also got paid differently, but they're just coming after Wade. I don't think it has to do with their race. I think it has to do with the allegations that you had intercourse with one of them.
But dear God, are you listening? Why does Commissioner Thorne and so many others question my decision in a special counsel? Lord, your flawed, hard-headed, and imperfect child, I'm a little confused. I appointed 3 special counsels, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one. I hired one white woman, a good personal friend and great lawyer.
Did you have intercourse with her?
A superstar, I tell you. I hired one white man, brilliant, my friend, and a great lawyer.
Did you have intercourse with him?
And I hired one black man, another superstar, a great friend, and a great lawyer.
But did you have intercourse with him? We're trying to glean this out. Because you can hire people that are also friends. And we all want to know about the other two. Are they more qualified? Have they ever handled a felony prosecution ever? And of course, the big question, how much did they get paid? Did they get paid $700,000 too? And did some of that money go to cruises for you, Fani? Or not? Okay, we're not talking about the color of their skin. We're talking about the content of their character. She's not.
Oh Lord, they gonna be mad when I call them out on this nonsense. First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one?
No.
Isn't it them playing the race card when they constantly think, I need someone from some other jurisdiction in some other state to tell me how to do a job I've been doing almost 30 years. God, why don't they look at...
Okay, so I think it's racism, I think is now what this is now. So it's just racism. They're just targeting the black man, which I have a question for her. I'm a little bit curious about her racist behavior. First of all, why didn't she sleep with a white guy? Why didn't they go on cruises together? I think this is reverse racism in action right now. And why didn't she sleep with the woman also? If she's a boss, you should treat your employees equally. And she's only sleeping with one guy, which is totally not equitable. All right. So here's another one. Now, this was her saying, why is the white male Republican judgment good enough, but the black female Democrat is not? Okay. Let's see what this one says. Says Wade has impeccable credentials. Let's listen to this.
Wasn't it them that attacked this lawyer of impeccable credentials? The black man.
He's never handled a felony case, ever. According to the articles, a prosecuted one, okay? So why are they giving him the most incredible prosecution in state, case law, American history? It's a prosecution of a former president. It's crazy. So here she goes.
Wasn't it them that attacked this lawyer of impeccable credentials? The black man I chose has been a judge more than 10 years, run a private practice more than 20, represented businesses in civil litigation. I ain't done, y'all. Served as a prosecutor, a criminal defense lawyer, special assistant attorney general.
He was a prosecutor, but he didn't handle felony cases? Is that right, Fani?
Won Chief Justice Robert Benham Award from the State Bar of Georgia. They ain't just giving this to black men. How come God, the same black man I hired, was acceptable when a Republican in another county hired him and paid him twice the rate? Come on. Oh, y'all ain't.
Because that other guy wasn't sleeping with him, probably. And it was probably for a different job, not a criminal prosecution of a former president. I don't remember what that other job was, but was there another case where they prosecuted a president in Georgia? Maybe that's why it matters. And this is a criminal prosecution, so you get different payment terms in that case, in that area.
Hear me? In another county, the elected official has the authority to pay him twice the rate. Why is the white male Republican's judgment good enough, but the black female Democrats not?
Because they're not banging each other, Fani. It's not complicated. Oh my gosh. Wild.
Now please hear me. I'm not criticizing his judgment. The people of his county elected him to make that decision. In fact, let me put it on the record. He's someone I respect because he was always willing to hire diversity. He was just looking for quality. I don't care political party. They care about it. My only question is, why is it question me? Lord, now I want to be clear. All three of these special counselors are superstars. But I'm just asking God, is it that some will never see a black man as qualified, no matter his achievements?
No.
What more can one achieve? The other two have never been judges, but no one questions their credentials.
Because they're not sleeping with you. That's why.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, so are we. We're just saying the same thing. We're just saying, why, first of all, why didn't you sleep with the other two? That's what I want to know. It's not fair. Anna says, we got a couple more from Fani, and I think we're getting close to the end. We got, I think, 3 more. She says, I'm as flawed as they come. Now, and one thing you will come to learn is I make sure everyone else is good. And she gets a little emotional here. Here's Fani.
I'm here to tell you something. And it may make some of y'all a little uncomfortable.
We're ready.
God's using ordinary people to do extraordinary things. I come real regular. In fact, when I meet people, that's what they say. Real regular, you don't have no airs about yourself. And I say, well, how can I come from regular folk. I ain't got no pedigree. I'm not a member of any of those elite organizations.
Like Harvard?
And one more thing, I'm as flawed as they come. But there is something special about me. It's my willingness to love people. I love people of every political party.
Like your special prosecutor?
Different viewpoints, different races, different sexualities.
Oh, wait, maybe we could get some little special counsel on special counsel action for the other two.
And one thing you will come to learn about me is I make sure everyone else is good, and sometimes I'm not.
Well, maybe another cruise will help, Fani. Maybe you and Wade should go on another, you should go to the Mediterranean. I don't think you've been there yet, so check that one out. Here is one more from Fani.
See, Dr. King was an extremely special, brilliant, godly man, but he was just a man. Yes. And his journey was full of mistakes, pitfalls, pain, and ugliness. Despite all of that, he overcame those things and he changed the entire world. See, I know we are at a time of history when they want to throw away books and not talk about history. Some of y'all may have forgotten. When Dr. King was alive, he was attacked for his stance on the Vietnam War. Some of y'all might have forgotten that scandal the FBI tried to do on personal indiscretions they alleged. Some of y'all forgot that.
Is she talking like she's MLK now? The FBI's trash, right? The FBI's been trash for years. Are they responsible for these allegations against her and Nathan?
But now that same FBI will take a day off to celebrate Dr. King because my lawyer said he will make them your footstool. All the glory I receive, it's his glory. All
right, so that's Fani. I think she's kind of comparing herself to MLK. And this is our last one here, my friends. And this is where Fani says that she is out there saving the world.
All the glory I receive, it's his grace, not a perfect me. We are at a time in history, people. Hear me on this. We are at a time in history when you can no longer sit back and just let other folks do it.
Ooh.
You cannot expect black women to be perfect and save the world.
What?
The Lord is completing us. We are not perfect. We need your prayers. We need to be allowed to stumble. We need grace. With that kind of support, we will move mountains and do Jesus' will, stumbling all the way. So his flawed, hard-headed, and imperfect child has a message for each of you today. Please find a way to do your extraordinary, God-given assignment and make this community and the world a better place for all of his people. See, it is never about who you are. It is always about the great I am and who he is. See, we are all flawed, sinners, unworthy, imperfect, damaged, but we are qualified upon his calling. You can find common ground with people of all different ideologies if you simply commit yourself to being obedient and steadfast in your efforts and his word. If you commit yourself, God will turn your hard-headed self into the extraordinary for his kingdom. Thank you.
All right, so that's the end of it. Very interesting speech there. Full thing was about 30 minutes. I think we got about a third of it. And it is Fani Willis kind of, sounds like to me, almost accepting responsibility for it. You know, we're all sinners. We're all at fault. We all get lonely, you know, we all get a little stressed out from time to time. I think I'm under attack. And so I need a man to come over here with his firearm to come out here and protect me kind of thing. I don't know what's going on, but it is not really responsive to the allegations. We have questions about like actual money transfers and whether he was even lawfully appointed. Like the motion is very detailed. It's not just about these two are, maybe, doing the hibbity-dibbity in between court sessions or whatever. That's interesting, certainly. It is about the conflict of interest, and it's about the corruption in the appointment and how they're extracting value out of this prosecution and how it really kind of jeopardizes their legitimacy in even being prosecutors in the first place. Actually, it goes to whether Nathan Wade is even lawfully appointed, is what the motion says, legally speaking, in addition to all of the other salacious stuff. So sounds to me like she's blaming, I think, racists ultimately instead of her own self, but okay. Now, this is the governor of Georgia, Governor Kemp. He posted this. He said that his office and the accusations are deeply troubling. There is Nathan Wade. You see him. He was exiting his law firm with that firearm handy. And apparently the governor described the accusations that Fani and Wade are, indicting each other. He called it deeply troubling. A spokesman, Brian Kemp, also indicated that Fulton County DA could face a probe by a special commission, over her alleged improper relationship. They said, governor's office gave a statement to the Post saying these allegations are deeply troubling and the evidence should be presented quickly in order for Judge McAfee to rule and the public to have confidence in this trial moving forward. My gosh. Co-prosecutors were accused of having a clandestine relationship, lavish vacations, Florida, Napa Valley, the Caribbean. I'm thinking they should go to the Mediterranean next. Kemp signed a new bill last year, giving a new agency the power to investigate complaints against DAs and remove them. Wow. Misconduct in office can be a basis for removal. Kemp spokesman told the Post that Marjorie Taylor Greene has the right to submit her criminal complaint. Of course she did. And Willis stayed largely out of public view until she came and delivered her sermon at church. So, my friends, we are going to be here waiting for the reply from Fani's office. We know we have a hearing scheduled for this one mid-February. And we'll see what she says in response. Maybe there's a perfectly good explanation for all of this. And we'll come back and we'll say, wow, we were dead wrong here. But I doubt it because there's enough evidence here. And it sounds like Roman and his defense attorney, Ashleigh Merchant, they've got the goods. And we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. And so thank you for joining us as we do. No matter where you're watching this, I really appreciate it when you subscribe. And I really appreciate it when you share this show with a friend or family member, when you invite them to come on over here and join us. It really helps the show grow and reach new people. So thank you for doing that. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. Now, we've got one final segment on the day, since some of those were a little bit shorter. And let's jump right into it. Is the military plotting to stop Donald Trump? We know that Time magazine had that article after 2020 saying, if we did it, because we know they did it, but now before the election has even started, the question is, are they doing it again? This is a new story from NBC News. They say that the military and other people who are, I would call them bureaucrats embedded in the deep state, they are working to stop Trump before he even wins. That's how nervous they are. So we're going to see what's happening there, who some of these people are, before we turn our attention over to the newly disclosed expert witnesses who are going to be testifying against Trump in the Florida classified documents case. We've got a notice of disclosure listing a bunch of new FBI agents who are all going to be telling us that Trump's a criminal. Experts like Andrew Kochy. He is on the computer response team. We're going to see what Johnathan Hoyt does. He's on the cellular analysis team. We're going to look at David Loveall. He's a senior computer scientist, all from the FBI, all being disclosed by the DOJ. Then we'll hear from Shifty, Bernie, Scaramucci. Yuval Harari says that a Trump win would be the death of global order, which sounds Amazing. And then Trump himself is going to come out and say, this is what we're going to do when we get in charge of the DOJ. But here's the story. The military coup, a plot to stop Trump before it even begins. NBC tells us the following. Fears are growing that Trump will use the military in dictatorial ways if he returns over to the White House. And so, of course, they can't let that happen. They're going to do something to stop him. And here is what it sounds like. They say Donald Trump is sparking fears among those who understand the inner workings of the Pentagon, saying that he would convert the nonpartisan, which is like a joke, because they expelled people who wouldn't follow their mandates. Milley screamed about white rage. We now know that there's all sorts of transitioning things happening, and weird. So they're pretty partisan, but anyways, says Trump would turn it into a muscular arm to enact his political agenda. A circle of appointees independent of Trump's political operation steered him away from ideas that they thought were bad, which I would call treasonous. You know, they were basically not doing what he told them to do. Most were gone by the end, but in a new term, many former officials worried that Trump would instead surround himself with loyalists unwilling to say no, like all of those other deep staters did before, which is great news. I hope Trump doesn't hire any of those people. Now, Trump has raised fresh questions about his intention if he regains power. Now, look at this, including to assassinate political rivals, which was a stupid question from Judge Pan in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals on that. All right, look, if you're going to have a political people assassinating political opponents and you have people actually executing those orders, country's in a pretty problematic situation anyways, right? We're kind of talking a whole new level of hypotheticals. But even if they did, right, even if Joe Biden, for example, assassinated Trump, my position is still, you got to impeach him and convict him, then you can prosecute him. And unless he takes out half of Congress, then that is the appropriate constitutional mechanism by which you prosecute him. It's not complicated. But now, bracing for Trump's return, a loose knit of, insurrectionists, of public interest groups and lawmakers, they're quietly devising plans to try to foil any efforts to expand presidential power, which could include pressuring the military. Those taking part in the effort, which are like coup plotters, or Liz Cheney might call them insurrectionists, or militia members, or oath keepers, or Proud Boys, okay, whoever these people are, they told, the version of that using their framing, they told NBC News they're studying past actions so that they can be ready if Trump wins. Sounds like they're getting a little nervous there. That involves legal action, sending letters to Trump appointees, spelling out the consequences if they undermine constitutional norms. Mary McCord said, we're already starting to put together a team to think through the most damaging types of things that Trump might do, so we're ready to bring lawsuits if we have to. Part of the aim is to identify like-minded coalitions to bring them together against Trump. Other groups called Democracy Forward, an organization that took Trump to court more than 100 times. We're preparing for litigation to go after Trump. And there's a bunch of people here involved. Some lawmakers on Capitol Hill worry that Trump might invoke the Insurrection Act. And Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, is crafting a bill to talk about the Insurrection Clause and the Insurrection Act. So they're being very dramatic about this. Now, this is, not the government, but it is people outside of the government who are plotting to take him down. Now, I would imagine that these same people are also interfacing with the people who are in the government. The refrain that I've been repeating like a broken record is, how can these secretaries of states, if they are vehemently and actively opposing Trump from even being on the ballots, how can we trust them to actually run the elections in the aftermath? Same with all of these people. CIA lied to us last election. FBI lied to us last election. All the social media companies censored and covered up the stories that were bad for their guy. It's nonstop. And so they're now creating the infrastructure to do the same thing all over again. And where are the Republicans in response? Well, we'll see. Now, we also have new filings in the Florida case, so we can see who some of these people are who are going to be testifying against Donald Trump in the classified documents case, which is a manufactured intelligence operation to say that the president, who is entitled to all the documents that he ever could want because he is the president, and the Constitution says so, under the opinion power in the presidency, he's entitled to have these classified documents. Now, the DOJ said, no, you're not, because the National Archives is more powerful than the presidency, and congressional statutes somehow usurp constitutional powers, again, vested to the president. But for whatever reason, these FBI agents are going to come out and testify. Let's see who is coming out. This is the government's notice of expert testimony in the Florida case, classified documents. These are short filings, but let me just share with you who the government is identifying for us. We've got a bunch of people from the computer analysis response team. So these 4 people, A, B, C, and D, are all from the computer analysis response team. Gabriella Mancini, Stacy Shaharani, Special Agent Henry K. Ha, Special Agent Andrew Kochy? Oh, gosh. Is it Kochy or, oh, gosh. Kochy or Kochy or the other one? I don't know. That guy's having either way you go on that one, it's dangerous. We'll call it Kochy. We'll call it Kochy, not the other one. So Kochy, Andrew Kochy, or Johnathan Hoyt, or David Loveall. Okay, these are all people who are going to be testifying against Trump, maybe. Having provided a complete statement of our expert witnesses, let's learn a little bit more about who these people are from Jay Bratt. Jay Bratt is the one submitting this. So here are the actual notices. So Special Agent Hoyt, he is on the cellular analysis team. So let's see what he says about this. They say Special Agent Hoyt, he's got a lot of training in cell sites, 230 hours of cell site training. And he's got a nice background, 10 years, no publications. But here's what he's going to talk about. So the cell guy, he says that Special Agent Hoyt created 3 reports that detail cell site analysis for 2 cell phones. So they've got 2 cell phones, one belonging to Walt Nada, the other belonging to Carlos de Oliveira. All 3 reports were in the discovery. So this is Walt's. Walt is the valet, and Carlos is another staff member there. So Special Agent Hoyt, what did he do? He's going to explain cell towers, call detail records. He's going to put them on maps, on overlaid maps, and say, hey, from this location, he went from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here. The government says that Special Agent Hoyt will testify that using cell tower lat and longitude coordinates from Nada and de Oliveira's cell phone, he mapped cell site data into software that shows where they all went. He's expected to testify that the analysis of the cell site created the report. And he's going to explain that location data on June 25th shows Walt's cell phone moving to New Jersey, to LaGuardia, then to Boston, and back to Palm Beach. So they're going to use the cell phone records to show that Walt Nada, I guess, picked up some stuff. Nada then connected to de Oliveira's cell phone back at Mar-a-Lago. So they just moved around. They're just tracking their movements. The location data will also show Nada in South Florida until it returned to New Jersey. Then it got to the Mar-a-Lago cell tower again. A call was made from Nada's cell phone to de Oliveira. And Special Agent Hoyt is going to testify about how the cell networks operate and how location analysis is reliable. Signed by Johnathan Hoyt, FBI. So they're going to track around the numbers, right? Okay, so that's one Special Agent FBI. Here's attachment D. This is somebody on the computer analysis response team. Remember, there are four people on this team, and they're all doing different things. And I believe they also picked up some other devices. But Andrew Kochy is going to be here. He is another FBI special agent, multiple units focused on cybercrime, major crimes. He's got all sorts of, forensic qualifications from the FBI. And here's what he's going to talk about. So they say Special Agent Kochy is going to testify that he did a forensic analysis of an Apple iPhone 12 mini with the serial number that belonged to de Oliveira. They got a search warrant for that. He's also going to testify about other messages that he got, corresponding times and locations, certain images, and other things. We anticipate that Kochy is going to explain how we verify that all this data is good, to show that the original evidence is not damaged or misinterpreted. And he basically imaged the cell phones, and then he's going to explain those. So Andrew Kochy submitted that one as well. And then the final expert that we'll cover here today is this guy. And he's kind of the most senior guy is what it looks like. David Loveall II. He's been a computer scientist for a while. Quantico, Virginia, December 2013. Prior to that, he was a digital forensic examiner in Kansas. Lots of credentials, DOS, Windows, adjunct professor, Windows registry forensics. I know what some of these things are. Mr. Loveall's qualifications are broad. They say no publications in the last 10 years, but if necessary, this is the social media guy. He's going to look at publicly available videos and images and social media posts captured from the internet. Okay. He's going to put on his monocle and be the internet expert. Now, speeches, media interviews, true social posts, all this stuff is going to be introduced as evidence. He's going to explain to confirm the videos are accurate, when they were presented, and the methodology for the illegal Trump truth posts. So David Loveall is going to be the guy who is behind that one. So you can see these are the different people who are going to be presenting some evidence against Donald Trump in the Florida case, provided that that case goes to trial soon. And these are the people also a part of the deep state, guys like Adam Schiff, who lied to us about intelligence and other aspects of our government for years to go after Trump. And he was on MSNBC's hit show called Inside Jen Psaki with the former White House press secretary. And here's what he said.
Life of a Senate president if they brought impeachment proceedings and not be held accountable. Essentially, it would, to quote Justice Goldberg, it would turn the Constitution into a suicide pact. And the Constitution is not a suicide pact. It doesn't require its own destruction. But to interpret the way Donald Trump would interpret the Constitution, it would nullify any of the protections the American people have from a despot or despotism. I think the tougher question, frankly, the Court of Appeals may have to deal with is, should they decide this before there's a verdict in the case? That may be the closer question. But on the merits of this, is a president immune while in office from being prosecuted for committing crimes when he leaves office? The answer is clearly no. And I think even with the current Supreme Court, they're going to conclude, no, you don't have that kind of immunity.
Well, you don't if you're impeached and convicted. Donald Trump was not impeached he was impeached but not convicted. So that's the problem, Shifty Schiff. But you can see they just keep changing the standard. It's like Trump can like murder everyone and there's no consequence. That's not true at all. There are other avenues to get there. But here's Bernie Sanders. Okay, they're all now doing this, we're all going to die routine on the media every single day. Bernie got the same memo. He showed up with Jake Tapper. Here's what that sounded like when Bernie got the chance to speak.
Look, I think we will see what happens in November because the choice is pretty clear. Running against Donald Trump, who I suspect will be the Republican candidate, is one of the most dangerous political figures in modern American history. So I think people will end up rallying around Biden. But there is no question, it is very hard for young people, I think for most Americans, to be excited about what is going on right now. President has got to change course. He has been very clear. He has expressed his concern about, quote unquote, indiscriminate bombing. He has asked Netanyahu over and over again to change course. Netanyahu just yesterday said, no, we're going to continue doing what we are doing. Unacceptable. You cannot give billions of dollars to a country that ignores your wishes, violates international law. So I would hope that the president follows through on his concerns and says to Netanyahu, this is unacceptable. You're not getting a nickel more from the United States unless you radically change course. We're not going to.
All right, so even Bernie Sanders is getting a little tired of the Biden people. And we know there was an insurrection at the White House last night. And at the White House, there were protesters who were protesting what was happening in Gaza, who actually came up against real fences last night. Did you see that? There were actual real fences there that they didn't want people to pass. And if you compare and contrast the offenses from the insurrection last night with January 6th, there were like little bike racks that they were just knocking over on January 6th, right? So you can just see the two differences. They do not want people to go into the White House, so they put up actual fences, and they also exited Joe Biden. Whereas with Trump, they just put over these little 3-foot gates that an 8-year-old could hurdle over on January 6th. So they're having some difficulty there in the Democratic Party as well. Here's an ex-Trumper called Scaramucci. You remember him? He was around for like 2 minutes. And Scaramucci saying, I'm going to be out working against Trump.
You saying that, and maybe I misheard you.
100%. No, you didn't mishear me. If Donald Trump is the nominee, I'm a patriot first, Jim. I'm a partisan second. This is a battle for the American democracy. This is a battle for freedom. When someone's telling you they're going to flex and be a dictator on day one and go after their adversaries, this is against the 200-plus year experiment of America. This is against what made your country, your family and my family successful in this country.
200-year experiment there, Scaramucci? Do you mean like 234-year history of not prosecuting people in this country until they just decided to do that under new novel theories that nobody's ever tested before, or removing people from ballots like they've done in Colorado and Maine? So these people are, I think, really intentionally misleading, the saying that they're fighting for American democracy while their side, their networks, are trying to throw Trump off the ballots everywhere they turn. Now, this is a great clip from this guy called Yuval Harari. And I like his work, actually. I know he's a weird dude and many people call him a WEF shill, but his books are actually pretty good. I read both of them. One is called Sapiens and the other is called Homo Deus. So one is about the history of humanity, one is about the future of humanity. And I read him more as somebody who is observational rather than prescriptive. People, I think, hear him talk about this weird transhumanist future that sounds very dystopian and very WEF-y, no doubt. But I don't know that he's an advocate for that lifestyle other than he's just observing it. Anyways, you can have your differences on him. I think his work is quite good, and I think it's important to be able to interpret what the other side is saying. I don't think he's a dumb person, and I think he's got a very good point here where he's talking about what happens next.
To what remains. Or to...
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again shortly?
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order.
Nice.
And he says it openly. Now, again, it should be clear that many of these politicians, they present a false dichotomy, a false binary vision of the world, as if you have to choose between patriotism and globalism, between being loyal to your nation and being loyal to some kind of, global government or whatever.
Are you concerned that Trump might
be? And it is going to be the destruction of the global order because it's about America first. That's what we want to see. And I think that he is right about that there is this kind of battle that's happening. Are we going to be a part of a global effort, or are we going to be a part of a country that cares about itself and its people rather than sacrificing its people for the global order, which is why we're supporting Trump, many of us, because Trump is the antithesis of that. He is the one person who stands outside of the mob, outside of the masses who are going along with endless war, open borders, debasing our currency, and the rest of the litany there. So I think that he is right about that a Trump win would really signal the death of the global order, and I can't wait for it. Now, here's what Trump says when he's responding to the DOJ. Of course, the DOJ and the FBI have been going after Trump almost exclusively, and the J6ers and everybody else who associates themselves with Trump. And this is Trump explaining what his intentions are.
I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist in reverse, enforcement of the law. I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officers throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. We're going to stop crime in our country. And we will take over the horribly run capital of our nation. Horribly run. We have a capital that we all love. Right now, it's a rat-infested, graffiti-infested shithole. It's horrible. Where people are being killed. This week, 3 people were shot. People are being killed just for walking into a park, which is now littered with tents and homeless. I will direct.
All right, so content warning. I didn't expect that to be coming, but it's true. It is a dump over there. My gosh. So Trump's going to be there to, I think, bring back some order, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And so, my friends, we are going to be here to continue to cover this and more. They are plotting hard against Trump. We've got new expert witnesses from the FBI. This is just probably the start. There's going to be a lot more people who are coming out as these prosecutions and this weaponized lawfare against Trump continues on. We're going to be here continuing to cover it. And so thank you for joining us as we do, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for hitting that like button wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for checking out robertgovea.com. If you want to read any of these PDFs, we're going to upload them all up on robertgovea.com. Link is down in the description below. While you're there, sign up for our daily newsletter. That way, we summarize all of these stories, deliver them to your inbox, and then you can forward them to everyone you've ever met in your entire life. And they're going to love you for it. And so thanks for doing that, and we'll see you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, we covered some good ground today. We got 4 segments in, a couple of little shorter ones, but Fani blaming racism, Trump slamming Jack Smith for his continual filings, and of course, Trump preparing to testify in the second E.G. Jean Care Bergdorf trial. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this. It's also Iowa time. And so let's see if there's anything happening in Iowa right now. Let's see what the latest headlines are. And here's some live updates. Looks like over from CNN. So they're not getting started quite yet. Live updates, 7:01 Eastern time. So it's just a minute ago. Iowa caucuses is tonight. And we're probably not going to get results until a little bit later. So we'll cover some of that tomorrow for sure. But now, my friends, let's see what you have to say about this over from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and YouTube and Rumble. And we had a couple, I think, from the last weekend. Hey, James Roberts was giving us an update. Says Oklahoma is 1 degree. Man, it's been cold all over this country, hasn't it? Been a little extra cold. So thanks for sending that one in, James Roberts in the house. That was this morning. Let's go. Brandon is here. Says, oh, so close. I can feel the water breaking. He's at 8 months, man. He's about ready to pop. Brandon Lesko, thank you for being here. And you're right, any day now, we're going to have a new baby. John McGarvey says, okay, 18 months, which is 2 full babies in the house, says, I'm eating a dozen donuts in protest. Well, John, you've earned it. You've birthed 2 children today. Have as many donuts as you want. Thanks for being here, John. For 18 months. That's a long time, John. We appreciate you. We got David D. Hart. Welcome, David. So our membos on YouTube, don't forget to navigate over to the community tab section. Grab the Telegram link. That's where our after party will be. And we're going to be there soon. We've got some more. Glocky McGlock is here. Says this has to have something to do with the Dominion voting machine trial that starts tomorrow. I mean, why else would the Republicans all of a sudden find courage? Wow, okay, this one says, breaking, Georgia state senators are introducing bills to remove Brad Raffensperger. Is the Amy Totenberg case, is that starting tomorrow? Interesting. Yeah, the Georgia Dominion trial. That one is coming up. Interesting. Lady Ice shared with us the Time article. Yeah, the secret history of the shadow campaign. This was the story. Remember this? We covered this. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. Okay, these maniacs, like, yeah, we rigged it. This is the OJ version of if I did it. Yeah, we rigged it. Okay, thanks for that. So Lady Ice, thanks for sharing that, says, it has to be Flynn. He is the only loyal one out of those three. I used to like Pompeo. Turns out he was placed there to watch over Trump, some say. Other options that I would trust are Kash Patel or Rick Grinnell. I think Lady Ice is talking VP stuff. Yeah, Pompeo's definitely a hard no. Hard no. We got Waldo. What's up, Waldo? 5 new membos coming in. Courtesy of Waldo. We got Lenny M. We have C. Warren. We got Pete S. Salty C. And Heh Heh is in the house. Good to see you. All my friends, Waldo. Thanks for bringing them in. And what's up, Elaine? We got another double baby. Justice, truth, and the American way. You guide us. Thank you. Justice and truth. They do guide us all. Elaine, thanks for that. Thanks for being a member for 18 months. That's a long time. That's 2 full babies, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of time. So thank you, Elaine, for that. Justice and truth will set us free. Tony Hay Munkets bringing in 5 new membos. We got CK, the only one, Purple AJ, Birdlaws here, OG, and Just Call Me Jay. All in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Tony, thanks for bringing in the 5 newest membos. Mimi McG is over on the locals, says, hey, Rob, did you see this? NBC reported Fears Grove. Yeah, we did. We covered that story. Yeah, Fears Grove that Trump will use the military in dictatorial ways. Among those being mentioned for Trump's secretary are Christopher Miller, Michael Flynn, Mike Pompeo. Tim Pool says they're already planning a coup if Trump wins. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at all. You know, it reminds me of the 1860 election. And I know that's the Civil War election, and I've been bringing it up a lot lately. But remember, before Abraham Lincoln even took office, a whole swath of states had already decided and left, already formed basically a new government, and we're still onboarding states. So you could see how something like that could happen here. They just go bananas. Trump wins. They all go nuts and start to plot accordingly. Hey, Brian, Ryan, we got a baby in the house. My goodness. Brian, thanks for the prayers for Crystal. She's home tomorrow. It works, my friends. The prayers work. Brian R. So awesome to hear. Man, God is good. Thank you for that, Brian. Amen. We're happy to hear that. Thanks for the prayers for Crystal. She's home tomorrow. Yes! Thank you, my friends. And thanks for the update, Brian. Great to hear that. Shout out to Crystal. We're glad you're home. John McGarvey is supporting the cuss jar, swear jar. Thanks, John. Yeah, Trump let that one fly. I didn't know he was going to say that. My apologies for all the youngins out there. Thanks for clearing it up, John. Hey, Cowboy Rob says, when and if do you think the court will rule on Citizen Smith being eligible special counsel? That's a good question. I don't think anybody's brought it up as the problem. So like Trump's lawyers didn't bring it up. Our friend Elliot, our document master on locals, shout out to Elliot, found actually through the transcripts, there was at the Court of Appeals in the DC circuit on the immunity issue. They did bring it up, but and I missed that, but Trump's lawyer said that they didn't bring it up in the case. In other words, the court asked about it, but Trump's people said, well, we're not bringing that issue up right now, so we don't really need to get into it. Like, we're only litigating immunity. So maybe it'll come up later. But if nobody brings it up, like if Trump wins on immunity, then he probably doesn't need to bring it up because the case is going to be dismissed regardless. Now, the only other place this is being brought up is with the Supreme Court. Will they take it up on their own if Trump's team doesn't make it an issue? I don't know. We might not get a ruling on it, I guess is my point. And this one, will the courts ever rule, another one from Rob, on Smith's eligibility? If so, how long and when do you think the ruling? So that's, again, very similar question, Cowboy Rob. Thanks for both of those. But I don't think anybody's brought it up. In other words, Ed Meese and these law professors are the only ones who've actually brought it up. Trump's team has not. If they do, maybe the Supreme Court will consider it, but that has not been so far the basis has been 14th Amendment stuff. So we might not get it at all. Ryan Patrick's in the house, says smash that like button. And my friends, you have to listen to Ryan, obviously. Thank you, Ryan, for the encouragement. We've got Cowboy Rob says, hi, Rob, a membo for 1 month. What's up, Cowboy Rob? First month's the hardest. Thanks for sticking around. Says here, Rob, last week I asked if you would ever come out of hiatus for the right case. I mentioned that I sense the need for many defense attorneys soon. To your point about plenty of other defense attorneys, do you know if they or any of them are coordinating and who keep in contact to defend a wave of ugly prosecutions? I humbly suggest it should happen, or maybe there is a reason not to that. My legally ignorant mind doesn't know. Well, so there are people who are, representing like groups of the J6ers, for example, like on X, there's Shipwrecked Crew and there's others. But I guess it depends on what you're asking about. Like if you're saying we should prepare a defense bar, it's what are we defending against? There are many defense bars for different things, like a DUI defense bar, domestic violence defense bar. There's not really a J6 defense bar, but there are attorneys who are practicing predominantly on J6 cases. So it's why are we getting organized? What are you anticipating? What are you attempting to accomplish? Why would you want me to do it relative to someone else who's probably smarter than me, in some other way, who can maybe do a better job on the drafting and some other things. But that would be my ultimate question. It's like, where are we going with it? What do we want to accomplish? Ryan Patrick, amazing. A membo for 2 months. Ryan, thanks for being a membo. Says, thanks so much for all you do to educate the people during this oh so important election cycle. Would love to see you team up with Dr. Steve Turley soon. I have seen Dr. Steve Turley's work. I like his channel. That's a good idea. I'm starting a list. I'd like to get out and about a little bit more here in the next, soon, because it's time. But thank you, Ryan Patrick, for that. Thanks for being a member, my man, and for coming by and supporting our work here. Gag says, thank you for that read through. Well, Gag, thanks for sending it. Yeah, thanks for sending it. It was a good question. I want to make sure people have good legal representation. There are a lot of bad lawyers out there. I used to run a law firm, fairly successful law firm here in Arizona. So, and I had a real problem with people hiring bad lawyers. We had to fix a lot of bad litigation. Cowboy Rob says, Big Fani has no gag order or gag reflex. But from Cowboy Rob. Glocky's here, says Fani's aspirations of using the Trump trial to elevate herself to run for governor or senator are quickly evaporating, along with her BS RICO case against Trump. Certainly feels like there's a mo shift, an energy shift that has happened big time. Glocky says, it shows you how stupid prosecutors are. Well, that's true too. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It looks like him and Fani were committing money crimes with tax dollars, and they didn't even try to smooth over his wife is really something. Is this even real? We have to be living in a simulation, right? I mean, they are trying to take down the former and probably future president, and this is the best they've got? Yeah. Larry's here. Compare the speed all these Dem prosecutors want Trump trials versus Wade's civil divorce case. One happens quickly, one happens slowly, dragging their feet on their stuff, but really accelerating Trump's. We've got this old guy says, I'm still waiting to hear any apology from Big Fani. Well, I don't think you're gonna. She's gonna blame the stress. She's gonna blame the loneliness and the attacks. And she's saving the world after all. We're just living in it. Pan-seared ribeye says, Hillary did it better than Fani. She said, I ain't no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. I remember that stupid clip from Hillary. Oh, gosh. I'm going to have to throw myself out the window for that impersonation. Philip says, Fani hiding behind God and victimhood is disgusting. Only proper one response. Bless her. You're right about that, Philip. I didn't even know what to say, really, during a lot of that. It's like, okay. The church is a sacred place. It's like you don't want to come down on somebody in their place of worship. It's like a really, honored thing. But she brought the politics into it and is blaming racism for her alleged affair. So, my gosh. Hey, what is this? From Angry Bell Sprout. What's up, Angry? Says, hey, Robert, longtime viewer, but hardly ever catch live. I'm glad you did today, Angry. Says, I have a question that's off topic, but wondering your opinion on how, quote, black affinity housing is legal on American universities today. How is segregation still legal today? That's a great question. I don't know anything about it, actually. I've not heard that term before. Black affinity housing. So it sounds like it's just like housing for black people. Now, I did see there was a post about something like that in Arizona. I think that they had like Arizona State University had like people of color floors or something. And then there were white guys there and then they kicked them out or something. So I don't know what this is about or if this is like a new thing, but you know, they could probably get around it by saying it's a group or it's you know, it's a club. There's other, there's other ways. I don't know. You know, there's like fair housing rules and requirements. So I don't know, actually. Probably should talk to a property lawyer about that. But I'm sure they have got some sneaky way. They call it a club. They call it something else that isn't housing. And they get around it. Great question, Angry Bellsprout. I'm curious. Glocky says, the little old lady behind Fani is just ignoring her and playing her crossword puzzles. Yeah, what do all the other constituents there in the congregation say? Good question, Glocky. This old guy says, I was so glad Fani was the guest pastor for today's sermon. Lord knows everyone needed that. Well, we're all a little more spiritually closer to God now that we've heard Fani lecture us about our racism. B-Man says she's trying to deflect. I don't care what she does in the bedroom or whatever. I care about what she's doing to help Joe Biden prosecute his political opponent. You're right. I agree. Again, I don't, her and Wade can do whatever they want, provided, first of all, if they're doing that, you know, in this case, they should disclose that because that's clearly a conflict of interest that they should disclose, but that's really a separate issue. I got questions about the money, about the interface between the incentives to prosecute Trump and the justice behind prosecuting Trump. Good question, B-Man. Glocky's here sharing the rot inside our current military. I don't even know what that image is. Tara says, Mary McCord is on everything Trump. Handcuffs for Mary McCord. 7 months, Tara. Woo, 2 months away from a baby. Very nice to see you. We got this one from Joe Spinella. Says, would love to see you, Viva, and Robert Barnes do a show together. Man, it's been a long time since we've done a show. You're right. It would be good to hang out with those guys. And man, they do great work. If you're not already following Viva and Robert Barnes, they do a great Viva and Barnes show on Sunday nights. They're on Rumble. You know where to find Viva. Joe, thank you for that. Aussie Kev. What's up, Aussie Kev? Thank you for this one. First super chat on the live stream. Thank you for sending that one in. Aussie Kev. This old guy says, location analysis utilizing cell towers is not reliable, nor is it accurate. Thanks, this old guy. Kaiser of Third Age says, American isn't an experiment. Good show, Rob. Thank you, Kaiser. Geg says, I think Harari is right about coming from a man who seems to advocate for abolition of human freedom. Harari is saying Trump heralds destruction of a global order. Sounds a bit like a death warrant. Yeah, so like, I'm not saying that I agree. I saw a bunch of comments with my Yuval Harari endorsement, which is, you know, I'm not saying that like I agree with his ideas, but I do think he's an interesting thinker. And I want to know what the heck he's talking about, man, because they're talking about some weird stuff. So anyways, the point is, yeah, I think he's concerned. I sense a little panic that he's like, all of our globalist plans are going to fall by the wayside. Hey, Super Buff is here. Says, for all the typos I have done and for chatting like a little girl today, your mods are great and patient. Remember, Blem is deep state. Blem from Arizona? Attorney Blem? Well, I don't know about that. But thank you, Super. You know, sometimes we have to chat like little girls. Sometimes, you know, it just gets the best of us. But we do have the best mods on the whole internet. And so thank you for that, Super Buff. Knox says, greetings all. Just brought all my plants in for the night. 20 degrees tonight in Houston. Man, it's going to be cold. Knox Bierman, an attorney in Texas, bringing in the plants. Naples Live Music says, Trump's rocking. Rob G needs to be part of the next administration. If I am called to serve, I'll be called to serve. Keep up the great work. Always enjoy your show. Hey, thank you, Naples Live Music. It sounds like you got some great music over there. Thanks for being a membo. And thanks for the nice dono tonight. if I'm called to serve, my friends. Hey, Mimi McGee says, a quick kitty pick to cleanse the brain after all the craziness in the news. Look at this handsome kitty cat, my friends. Just look for a minute. Forget about all your troubles. Look at this handsome fella in the house. We got Mountain Goddess says, less than 1 hour away from the Iowa Republican caucuses. I'm biting my nails, says Mountain Goddess. Yeah, it's like any minute now. We're going to start hearing some coverage on it. So Mountain Goddess, we'll be back tomorrow to see what the news is. I think it's probably going to be Trump pretty unequivocally. Big Poppy, what's up, Big Poppy? Says, great community. Been bringing in family and friends. That's what I'm talking about. Bring the whole family in here. Big Poppy, a member for 2 months. First month is the hardest, but second month gets easier. Rocky Water says, instead of repeating myself every day and wasting your time, from now on, I'm just going to get with the times and simplify it. I'm going to say, hey, Rob, great show. Thanks for what you do and how you do it into a quick anagram, which is HRGSTF Or maybe just Hergistiff, why to Heidi. That's pretty good. Hergistiff, why to Heidi. Rocky, thank you for saying that. I know exactly what it means, and it means the world. I appreciate it, and it's very efficient. CF Rob says, Dan Bongino, Roger Stone, Rob Govea is VP picks. I'm in. I'll serve. I'll go out there and eviscerate all the other people. You need me to come out there and deliver talking points against Joe Biden? I'm your guy. Geg is here. He says, thanks for answering my question. I just sense that the expansion of the Capitol Police, DOJ weaponization, rhetoric against wrong-thinking people might all somehow lead to waves of good people in bad situations. I don't know enough to be specific as to what form that might take. Okay, thank you for the clarification, Geg. And it's a great question. So the other reason why this is important is because it depends, like who is charging you and where are you being charged. Law is very geographic specific as well. So if somebody's being charged locally, you're probably going to want a local lawyer. If you're charged in Arizona, you're probably going to want an Arizona lawyer, not somebody from Florida who knows Florida law. This one is from Red One, says Fani is getting hammered for using her fanny. Isn't that ironic? From Red One. It is pretty ironic indeed. Knox says, read a great take on the whole Fani Soros DA situation. Gonzalez was removed here in Texas and 2 others removed in Florida. The commenter sees Soros as finding these compromisable people for their lack of morality. If they will not enforce the law, they are usually pretty low moral character types to begin with. Just you saying, well, maybe that has something to do with Fani and her scandal. David D says, I was Bruce Leroy for a year, but I changed and I had to rejoin. Oh man, when you change your name, it resets. All right, David D is Bruce Leroy in the house. Well, we're glad to have you back, David. And we'll try to remember all your past contributions. Thank you, David, for being a membo. Hey, BH Williams says, OMG, that Hillary HRC imitation was almost too good. Please don't do that again. LOL. Did you remember that clip? It was like brutal. It was brutal. Hey, Woodchip Bill says, I just looked. I've been a member for 9 months, and we're going to name the baby Justice. I like that name, Justice, from Woodchip Bill. Okay, we are short on time, so let's say hello to our friends on X very quickly, and then we'll go over to a short after party on Locals, and we'll get to everything else that we missed in the morning. We're going to say what's up to our friends on X. We got 19 viewers here today. What's up? Danny McWilliams, Jason on Blast. He's talking about Trump supporters showing up at the Iowa caucus today as the Empire. We got James Pepper over in the house. CF Rob says Trump needs to be careful testifying, may catch him in a lie. Oh, Nelly Al Holman says, Rob, spring training is coming. How about a stadium cushion of the big Fanny for bleacher bums? Oh gosh. Irene is here. Michael's in the house. Thank you, Michael. Nice compliment. And our friends, many others. Here is who you can see joining us on the X platform. Danny, Rob, O'Nelly, George, and our amazing friends on the X platform. But that is going to be it for us on the day, my friends. We are going to wrap it up right there. And we're going over to Locals just to say hello and goodbye on a very short after party today. But before we do, let's say thank you to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. Our friends clipping away for us. Vientikis Prime today is Donut Mind Me, clipping away, holding the fort down for us. Thank you, Donut. Dog Digger, Janek 909. We've got John Allen, Zach Nichols, Beyond Geo, Zulu's in the house, Ronnie Cole, Playing Hooky, Just Cause, and K-Bean, all in the house. And Elaine says, I meant thank you for shining the spotlight along the way, but the chat box went red. Snowing in Texas, hell freezing over again. Last one coming in from Elaine Smith. Thank you, Elaine, for sending that one. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. I appreciate all the donos. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, we're going to know what happened in Iowa. We're going to have some results, and we're going to see what else is happening all across the Trump cases. And so thank you for joining us and for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. We're going to be back here tomorrow to get into it all again, and we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. Cock is hard out there. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.